Welcome to 2 p.m. on this beautiful Sunday. We've started the Sunday service. We're hoping that you have enjoyed your Sunday so far. It is a sunny, bright and sunny Sunday. It hasn't been too bad today, actually, funny enough, after all the storms and bits, knocked out all sorts of lights the other night and did all kinds of things to us. Welcome along. It is another beautiful day. And we're leading into what is going to become a busy week. Tomorrow is the launch of a new Skoda in Ireland. Now, that's an Irish launch, so that's nothing to get excited about. I don't mean it's not to get excited about, but I mean, it's not a big international thing we're going to be turning all over the place, but it will be the Superb. I think the PHEV or the hybrid one will be there tomorrow, or whatever that one is coming. I don't do my research very well. I'm picking up a Ford after that, and then I'm off to Barcelona. Not tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday, to test the new Nissan Juke. So I'm going over for that one as well. That should be good. And then by the end of the week, I'll have, hopefully, fingers all crossed and toes all crossed, a Model 3 for test as well. That's a hope. Only because I want to test it. But I've already tested one. And big thanks goes to... You know who you are. We've had a little test of the Model 3 out there already, and I have it videoed. It's sitting there, but I'm waiting to see if I can just get some more permissions and footage and stuff to go for it, and then it'll be all sorted. So let's see who's in the house. We're going to go through what we're going to talk about today is carbon tax, which is coming in this budget. It's already here, but they're going to increase it. Honestly, that should be revolutions in the street. The Green Party, who's headed up by what seems to be some kind of lunatic, I think, I'm not sure, maybe he was serious. Eamon Ryan wants to reintroduce wolves into remote parts of Ireland. I'd love to find a remote part to talk about. Maybe it's the Green Party solution to the homeless crisis. Maybe just get the wolves to eat the homeless, and then you've got no more homeless, and you've got some wolves who are all well fed. That could be the solution. Maybe that's something you should think about. And the Ideal Home Show is hosting an electric car section, which I'm speaking at, which is in a couple of weeks' time. That's over 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. No, is it Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday, I think. And I'm speaking at all 4 days, so I'll be there somewhere around lunchtime. Every day, possibly earlier. I think they want me to come and do some VIP bits as well, talking to some VIPs and stuff. So that will be part of it. I'll be there for that bit. So it should be a good crack, the Ideal Home Show. So that'll be coming very soon, in the next couple of weeks. You can get tickets if you go over to our Facebook page. I left a link there to enable you to get free tickets to the show. Other than that, on the actual week, they cost money. And I'll try and run some sort of competition close to the time to give away some tickets as well when we get closer to it. So do some VIP thing if we can. If you've never been here before, where have you been all this time? Click the subscribe button. Click the like button as well. It always tells people that this is going on. And we see who's in the house now, which is Cormac was the first one to comment. What about this new carbon tax being mooted for the budget, Bob? Adding another 200 to 400 quid onto the cost of new car, VAT, VRT, now this. With the cost of electric cars and even more, a farce now. It is a farce. The whole thing is a farce, really. Carbon, what tax is often used for is to modify behaviour. That's what people do. So you bring in a tax if you want to get people to stop doing something. You tax and you tax it high. Not in Ireland though. So what they do is they put VAT at 23.5% on things like condoms or something like the female pill or something. You know, they bump it up. But in actual fact, it shouldn't be. They should be VAT free because they're absolute necessities. So the same applies to this carbon tax, which is supposed to be being floated to help the environment and to go back to Europe and be able to say, look, we're taxing our public because they're high CO2 emitters. Actually, CO2 is probably the least of our worries realistically. It's increasing in Ireland because we're not taxing the right things. The people that go after are trucks, buses, trains, airplanes. That's the place where massive CO2 is coming on. I can prove, that's provable, totally provable. You look at Dublin Bus, look where they buy their diesel. They don't buy it, they stock it themselves. They buy the cheapest rate diesel they can possibly find, which is why a bus stinks when it drives by you. Why they're not electric? Look at the size of that city centre. You can't tell me that Dublin is not prime ready for electric buses all over Dublin right now. It is a tiny city centre. I can walk from Houston Station to Stephen's Green. Walk it. And that's what they call a big bus drive. They have Lewis running through it already. That should be totally electric. So the carbon tax thing is a mess. It's going to come with a backlash as well. I guarantee that, because the general public's money will have to go. You have to pay more money for electricity, for gas, for anything that emits CO2. Electricity, gas, fuel, petrol, diesel, any of those kind of things that emits CO2 will be taxed at a higher rate. So just bear that in mind, that you're going to have to pay these taxes every single time, and they're just going to bring them in this budget and not worry about it. It doesn't matter. The general public's earning more money, right? We're all earning more money, right? Everyone's back to work, right? Of course we are. Brian Dedrick says, get in and buy an EV before prices rise and budget gets you. Afternoon, Bob. Lovely sunny in Greystones, County Wicklow. It is lovely and sunny here. I'm actually going to be, I was in touch with your library about doing a talk there, so I will be hopefully be doing a talk there in the next few weeks, all about cars and internet and all sorts of things. Anyway, we get around to what that is. So I do local talks in your local library. If you want me to come to your local library, get in touch with your library, tell them who I am, and they'll email me, or I will email them. Electric cars, yes. Also, we're going to be attacked on imports in this budget. I think we're going to get shafted on the import front, because... So, how do we get to the point where we import so many cars from the UK anyway? Just ask yourself that question. And if you're working in the car industry and you don't understand this, you should really open your eyeballs. So, we had a good used car market in Ireland all along. We sold a certain amount of new cars, and up to kind of 2008, 2009, we sold a lot of cars, brand new. Money was flahuluk. People were buying cars left, right and centre. An industry grew around the car industry and served that amount of cars. So, like, the most amount of cars we sold in a year was like 260,000 or something. We're down to about 100,000 now, or maybe it's less than that. Anyway, we're down to about 70,000 this year, actually, 70, 80,000. But that's neither here nor there. What happened to the used car market? Why are we importing so many UK cars? Let me tell you, there's a fantastic word that's been thrown around recently, and it's the word that sums up why we have to import so many used cars from the UK. It's not just price, it's availability. And the reason that is scrappage. So we had a scrappage scheme. We had a scrappage scheme and a scrappage scheme at one point there for a while. Around 2009, 2010, 2011, in and around those kind of regions, we started a scrappage scheme. You remember Renault used to give the scrappage scheme plus another €1,500 plus another $3,000 or something. It flooded the market with Meganes and Fluences. A Fiat did it years ago, flooded the market with Puntos. Problem is now there's no used cars left. The scrappage scheme took all of those used cars off the market, so the natural balance of used versus new was completely obliterated by these scrappage schemes. And now we're talking about having another scrappage scheme on the electric cars, and I think that's going to be a total disaster. You're going to do yourselves out of money and out of jobs, because the natural balance still isn't restored in the market since the last scrappage scheme, which is a good 8 or 9 years ago. We still aren't recycling enough cars through the market to create a proper second-hand used car market. And now, if all these dealerships, now at the front of their market or front of their shops is their own brand of car. So Toyota kind of demand that the front is made up of Toyotas. But dealers are buying in used cars from second-hand dealers in Manchester all the time to try and feed the market that we've created. So it's a tough one. But I do think a scrappage scheme would be a bad idea for the used car market and for the electric car market as well. It nearly killed us before. It's going to definitely kill us this time. Zdenko's here. Eric Rochford is here. Ooh, 2 million questions just passed up the screen there, sorry. Operator Hoot is here. That's not a name I recognise. Good afternoon, Bob and chat. Thanks, lads. Brian says, Jack Kennedy, congratulations on a British Supersport Championship. Jonathan Ray, 5 times World Superbike Championship, congratulations. On another note, I was watching the rugby this morning. I noticed New Zealand won a fairly convincing win over Namibia this morning in the rugby. If you were watching that, the highlights are online as well. Actually, you can get them here on the website. And last night I was watching the World Championship Athletics, which the marathon was on. Very interesting marathon, very tough conditions, very hot, 26, 27 degrees at night time with 49% humidity in Doha. So it was a tough time. I'm not a big sporty guy, but I like these kind of unusual ones. I don't do football, but I kind of like rugby and I kind of like athletics, generally speaking. So that's the kind of stuff I go after. There's Cross 13 that has joined us. Brian Masters says, good afternoon, Bob. There's two Brians. Two different Brians? Two different Brians. Are you related? No, you spell your name the same. Jerry Wicklow. Threat of more tax on fuel. Don't you realise that these days people who drive do so out of necessity? I would agree with that. Very, very few people out there who go for a drive, just go out and just drive around to burn fuel. Even young people don't do it. They got like a little bit off red in their fuel tank, and then they go uptown, they sit down and pose for the rest of the evening. It's the best they can do. It's not fair on people. It's very, very hard for people to afford fuel. And nasty petrol stations know that the budget is coming and has already raised the price of their fuel. The 0.9 at the end, so they go up by 1, so it's still 0.9 at the end, but it's like 147 goes to 148. It's just 1 cent, but it's just 1 cent before the budget, and then the budget comes and pushes it up by 5 or 10 cent, and bang, we're into ferocious price fuel. I really do think there's a whole point of going for cycling YouTube channel now instead of cars. It's not worth the cars thing's not worth it anymore. Cross says the new Nissan Juke point out it won't be made in the UK. Correct. Nissan are eyeing up actually moving all operations out of the UK. I got a message from a man in Sunderland plant the other day from the UK, and he said that over 29% of the Sunderland plant voted to leave Europe. And now Nissan are closing the plant. It's terrible. I hate to see what's happening in the UK. It's been destroyed by rich people. It really is. It's been destroyed by misinformed and very wealthy people are pulling it asunder, slowly but surely. It's not us. It's not Varadkar. Varadkar's an idiot most of the time. It's not him. It's not Ireland. It's England caused this, but nobody ever thought of what would happen with this little border. They could be gone already if there wasn't a border between us and Northern Ireland, which they own. 800 years of taking my language away from me and telling me that I can't speak a certain way. That's basically what England did for us. So we don't really owe England anything. Like that woman said the other night on Question Time. I can't remember what her name is. Really good. I fell in love with her immediately. So she stood up for an American woman. Brilliant. Niall McHugh is here. Raymond Grace is here. Mick Mulcahy. Oren Desmond. More electric vehicle infrastructure. Yeah, we need more. We need not just infrastructure. We need them in the right places. And we need them to be operational and serviced regularly. I think that's very important, that these things... we don't necessarily need faster infrastructure. We don't necessarily need 150 kilowatt chargers absolutely everywhere. But we need chargers in strategic locations where there isn't queues being built. Because right now we're at 2.5% of the market is electric. Kind of creeping towards that 3, maybe just slightly creeping that direction. And already there's queues at almost every charger that works. All the faster chargers certainly have queues at them. So much so, like the EV Owners Club Ireland is coming up with rules for itself. Only spend 20 minutes at a charger, only do this, only do that, only do that. It's nonsense, because as we encourage more and more people with electric cars, that's not going to work. It's never going to work. And then you have people who are pressing the emergency stop button to stop someone else charging so they can get a charge. It's just nonsense. I have now this week, Skoda Gate continues. Anybody who didn't see my Skoda Scala video, I was talking about the 1.5 and the hesitation, the kangarooing and other problems with DSG. I got a lot of comments from all over the world from people sending me emails telling me they have the same problem. I even had one person who claims to review cars tell me he didn't have any problem. He didn't see any problem with it, and yet Skoda's fixing the problem. I have the 1 litre Skoda, what's it called? Bloody hell. Got a Scala again this week, with a 6-speed manual gearbox, and it's fantastic. It's an absolutely gorgeous little car. It's still a little bit cheap on the inside. I still find a little bit of plastic here and there. There's still problems with the infotainment system. I updated the iOS 13 on my iPhone, and I updated the Google phone I have as well, and neither of them seem to be very comfortable with the system. It still doesn't work very well, so still a bit of a problem. Mark Church says, Bob, what's the story with Leaf 30 kilowatt battery degradation? Thanks. Battery degradation. So what happens is, actually, I can show you. I can show you battery degradation on my iPhone here, which is a couple of years old. I bought it second hand. I buy almost everything second hand because you get better value that way. Other people can take the hit on buying something new because it cost them a fortune. Anyway, so this phone is a couple of years old, right? And it says maximum capacity left. You might be able to see it. I don't know if you can see it on cameras. 86% is what it says there, right? So 86% capacity is the maximum capacity this thing can take now. That doesn't mean the battery performs worse. That means it won't stay going. It doesn't have the stamina to stay going all day and night and work and all these sort of stuff, right? So that's in your battery health. And iPhone tells you. Android doesn't really. It does now. Android 1 does tell you some things about your battery. But the problem is If that battery after 2 or 3 years can only keep 86% of its battery, if you buy a 8-year-old Nissan Leaf and it's missing 2 bars, that's actual range. That's going, that's as far as you can. Now I know people like Cross here is going to tell you that his i3 has done over 200,000 kilometers on it, and he's still able to do a certain amount of range as far as you can. But my point still falls back to the point of my petrol and diesel cars that could do 1,000 kilometers when it starts or 600 kilometers when it starts can still do it. So battery degradation is a big problem. Now, what do we do with the batteries that have degraded is another problem entirely. So even if you can afford to change your battery, even if you come to the point of going, right, I'm going to spend 10 grand and buy a whole new set of batteries from your Nissan Leaf, and you're willing to do it, or insurance covers it, or whatever reason you've got, the battery that comes out, where does that go? That has to be recycled, or it has to be done. Something has to be done, but it can't just sit in the ground somewhere and just rot there. We have to have that infrastructure. It's coming, but we have to have that infrastructure in place before we can really push out cars. Now, you'll get less degradation over time as we get more mature with this, as cars and batteries get better and better and better. Car companies understand, and battery companies understand about degradation coming as well, so they're aware of it. It's kind of older cars at the moment, older imports. You're buying generation 1, 2, 3 Nissan Leaf because they're around the longest, or the Renault Zoe or any of those cars that are older. Expect battery degradation is not as pronounced now. Right. Gia V6, Bob, is it worth the hassle of looking at any BMW with the N47 engine, no matter what the service history has? Absolutely, service history is king with these things. Recalls are king with these things. And then an in-depth knowledge of your own awareness of what you can do when something goes wrong. Because the worst thing is you buy a lemon and you end up sitting in a dealership, even a friend's dealership, for 3 weeks with this car waiting for it to do. So it's probably not worth the hassle anymore. It really isn't, because it'll sink you. Because these engines, unless you're able to get under it and do it all yourself, the engine it can be a nightmare of you to work on, because they're not very user friendly. It's pretty hard to get space to get your arms in to get at stuff. BMW tends to fill the engine bay quite heavily on their cars, unlike say Volkswagens or Fords or that tend to leave spaces all around. At least you can work on the thing. So I wouldn't, unless I was absolutely sure that I had plenty of money to fix it, or I could fix it myself. Even then, you're going to need plenty of money for parts. Michael Gallagher says, hello Bob, I enjoy your reviews, thanks. The 2 which covered the Kia e-Soul were very good. That's alright. There's another one coming to e-Soul. I have one for a long test at Christmas. We're going to be putting up large mileage over Christmas. We're going down to Galway and we're going down to Waterford. We're going very long range, and I've chosen an electric car for the whole of Christmas. So I'm going to be doing a series of videos on electric life over Christmas, and how difficult it is to use, or how easy it is to use, or what the infrastructure is like, or whether we get stuck somewhere. The real stuff. I go real. I tend to stay real as I experience it, and that's why you'll see that there's people who come onto videos and go, "Oh, you're wrong. You're factually incorrect. You shouldn't say that. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. You should do it this way." And no, because I'm just a user. You just pick it up as a user and go, "Yeah, that's great. I can use my knowledge and get it." But there'll be more coming on Kia e-Soul. Still one of my favourite cars, actually. Johnny the Fox says, hi Bob, do you think there will be any change to the incentives to purchase an electric car, i.e. lowering VRT on EVs? They will incentivise for sure. I don't know if the incentivise is going to be as big as it was previously. The thing is, right now they give you $5 grand. $5 grand's a fair incentive to buy a car, and what the car company's done is made all of the cars 40 grand, right? So they all kind of compete in that same space. But they actually all kind of start out at 49 grand, so the grants are off them. So they should be quoting the price of the cars with the grants off them. I think it's very misleading to quote the price of a car as 37, 38 grand. Wow, it's a 38 grand car, it's cheap. Yeah, but that's 10 grand worth of grants and €600 off your charge point. Like, it's a huge difference in price. It's very misleading, and it's not fair. And you're affecting the future value of those cars as well, because the grants may not always be there. So if the government decide, like when the market gets to 50%, why would you incentivize people to continue buying them? Why would you continue giving them 10 grand per car? And by the way, you as an old taxpayer out there, you're paying for people to buy electric cars. Just thought I'd say. Steve O.C., carbon tax. I'll tell you what, we should just work for free and pay all our wages to the state, making everything free. That will That will work, won't it? Just give us an effing break. Yes, well, carbon tax is already there, Steve-O. So you already pay it, but they're going to increase it. That's what's going to happen there. You're going to increase it on various things. It'll drive the price of petrol and diesel up. So if you're commuting like 99% of the country, you are going to be paying more for your petrol and diesel, and probably more for your train tickets, and probably more for your bus tickets, and probably more for anything that uses CO2. And that is a massive, massive problem at the moment, in that we don't have infrastructure to cover this. There's no one that I can think of that I know that lives anywhere in Portlaoise who could afford to be without a car, because 99% of what they do is not in Portlaoise. 16,500 people a day leave Laois to work in a different county. Think about that figure. Just think about that for a second. 30% of Dublin is 30% of the country lives in Dublin, but Dublin extends way beyond where Dublin used to be. A lot of people live in Kildare and Naas and around the edge of Dublin. They can't, there's no buses, there's no trains for them, they've got to drive. So they're just continually driving us to the point where we have to get rid of the car, but there's no alternative to the car. And now when we try and get electric scooters, or we try and get bicycles or any of that sort of stuff, we're not incentivized to do that either. There's no joined up thinking at all. It's all budgets. It's all about how much money they can take from you. It'll get them re-elected in the next budget or the next election. Cross says, the electric version of the Alexander Dennis Enviro 400 Dublin bus already used. The diesel version has more than 200 kilometres of range. That's enough to cover daily mileage for 95% of Dublin bus routes. Ta-da! Already invented. I also know LDV in Dublin. Harris used to be Harris. I know just Harris now, Harris Group. They also bring in electric smaller buses. Smaller sort of commuter buses. They bring them in already. I know the company that they work with, the Chinese companies out there, are developing a range of proper full size, big buses that can be electric as well. So there's a lot of that coming down the road. It's just that we live in a country that is ideally suited for this kind of task. Galway, Waterford, Cork, Dublin, they all have these. The one unique thing we have is medieval city centres that are all small and easy to get around. There's absolutely no need, as I saw a photograph tonight tweeted by, I can't remember who it was, somebody tweeted anyway, of College Green, and there's 12 buses all lined up behind each other, all of them with the engines running, none of them going anywhere because the traffic's too heavy. Why is the engines running? They should be the very first target of any environment minister, of any transport minister, walk in and go, Dublin bus, sell all Lemioks, replace them with electric ones. End of story. That should be done. End of story. That's the easy way out, and that solves that problem. You can wait forever for hydrogen. It's not here. It's still not here, and it's probably not going to be here. And I saw the Irish Times the other day wrote a story saying there'll be 80 hydrogen stations in Ireland. When? We don't even have one. When are they going to build them? Going to build all 80 at once over a period of 12 months, or will it be one a year for the next 80 years, or what? It's too far away. We need a solution today, not 2 years or 4 years or the next election time away. Graham IRL says, I'm living in Italy at the moment. God love you, that must be hard work. Italy's a tough country in fairness, work wise, not just mafia wise, but work wise. And it's just it's a beautiful place. I love Italy, one of my favourite countries in the world, but it's just a tough place to work. And the buses that enter the city connect the tram overhead cables, and the same system as tram use. That kind of system has been around since the dawn of trams and buses in the whole wide world. Look at San Francisco, look at in Europe, look at Vienna. There's an entire tram system there. It's beautiful to go. If you ever get a chance to go. Expensive city, but it's spotlessly clean, completely safe. Everywhere is fairly reasonably priced to go out or go anywhere. Tram system is amazing, can take you anywhere. You can hire a bike, cycle around the entire city centre and hand it in anywhere. You don't need to bring it back where you started from. Amazing city to go to. And they've had the overhead cable buses for years. Ireland had the overhead cable tram, and my mother moved to Dublin first to become a nurse. Well, she was taken to Dublin first to become a nurse. She has a photograph of herself standing on, I think it was O'Connell Bridge, one of the bridges in Dublin, and there's a tram in the background with the cable attachment going up. Dublin ripped, well, the Dublin County Council ripped all that out in favour of cars. Trams are useless, and they ripped up the entire tram, and now we spent the last couple of decades putting the tram back in again, the Lewis tram, and made a complete stones of it every single time. We still made a stones of it. It's still not right. We still have a tram that doesn't, you have to get off to get on the other one. Stupid. Anyway, sorry, I didn't drink coffee there. I get your point, Graham. We've had electric cars, electric buses, electric things around for a long time with the tram, constant electricity coming down from the wires overhead. It's a brilliant idea. New York is be full of it as well. Oh my God, there's 2 billion questions coming in. Give me all of your questions. I love it. We could be here for a while, but I love it. Sit back, relax, get a cup of coffee. Put me on in the background. It's good. It runs like a radio show, so you don't have to watch. You don't want to. I know I have to shout out a couple of buses. There's a bus, errand bus, that's heading to Cork right now that I'm talking on, and I know that because I got a text message from one of the people on board. Not even the bus driver. So the bus driver has been turned on. So I don't know who the bus driver is, but the person on board loves it. Absolutely tons and tons of questions on Instagram as well. I'm on Instagram as well. I'll stick with the questions here, so otherwise I'll fall behind. Mark Turner Smith says, afternoon Bob, relaxing, recovering after having an operation to remove an aggressive lipoma tumour in the back spine. No work allowed to do anything much until the 21st of October. Well, you take it easy. Nothing like having a tumour removed from your spine or your back. Hopefully that is the end of your woes, that all you got to do is get over that and then move on with the rest of your life, and you can be just a normal human being thereafter. There's nothing like a sort of an upset of something like a tumour or cancer or some sort of diagnosis to come at you and smash you between the two eyes for a few years. But hopefully that will be the last bit of it. That you've had it removed, you've had the operation. Might be something else coming at you later on. Keep your head steady, keep your diet well, keep active but rest. Don't just turn into a vegetable in the corner worried about what happens next. Try and get yourself up and moving around the place and doing things. It's vitally important because our mental health is reliant on us not switching off from ourselves. We tend to go away into a YouTube zone, into a car, into something that relieves the pressure for us. But we now distract ourselves so heavily we never spend any time in our brain, in our own mind, and it's a difficult place to be. But if you confront a lot of stuff that's in your head, it can often be much easier for you in time. But no doubt something will happen. This is a door that's opened in your life, and you've got to walk through it, and you've got to get to the other side, and you've got to open another door and go through that door as well, and you just keep plugging on forward, and that's the most important part. Stick with it, keep subscribed, keep whatever makes you happy, and before you know it, it'll all be over, and you'll be back to normal, or you won't be back to normal. You just take the next day as it comes. So best of luck to you, Mark. Hopefully you will recover 100%, and it'll all pass without anything else happening. Peter Dolan, afternoon Bob, back at the Sunday service after 2 weeks in sunny Florida. I'm streamable worldwide. What was your problem? No better way to ease into work ahead. Thanks, Peter, I'm glad you're back. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the channel, but you can also support the channel. There is a list of links down below for PayPal, Patreon, and many other ways through shops and things. You can buy bits and pieces if you want to. I just get a tiny, it doesn't affect the price of you going to Amazon to buy stuff. I just get a tiny cut out of every purchase. It is tiny, by the way. Or you can just do the super chat or whatever way you want to support the channel, but all your support is very necessary and keeps the channel free, and it means I can keep improving and making things better, and it's growing very fast. So there's a lot of changes coming along the way. Going to bring up a website as well to attachment to this, and we're going to grow the Patreon thing, and I'm looking for a camera person in Portlaoise to help, camera person / editor type. Pretty hard to find around here. Most of those kind of media types work in Dublin or live in Dublin or live in that direction, because that's where the kind of media is generated from. So it's kind of hard to find them here, but I am looking for someone for experience. So if you never held a camera in your entire life, don't. It's not about cars, this is about making films. Brian, the bus driver, we should go away with every form of tax for a car and tax it at the pump or plug. I know I'm repeating what I said many times before. I want a 5 litre petrol you can buy, but you will pay. Yeah, I agree with you to some degree there. We could easily move car tax onto fuel. We could easily make fuel, when you see it, you go, my God, that's really expensive. But actually, that's the only tax you pay on the car. That's totally possible. It could be €5 per litre for fuel. But you don't pay any other motor tax, you don't pay any VRT, you don't pay VAT. So to buy a car is actually quite cheap. What I find amusing in Ireland is that consistently the SIMI, the RSA and all the rest of them go on as if don't put any new tax on the car, don't increase the taxes anymore, don't do this, don't do that. But it never does the SIMI ever come out and say, can you lower the tax, can you lower the VRT on new cars, because we want to do something for the consumer. Never do they say that. That doesn't happen. So anyway, they use their force to make sure there's no more taxes so the price of cars don't go up, but they also do not use their force to make sure the price of cars never go down. Cars 5 years ago are now probably 10 grand more expensive than they were then. It's not far off. Be very close in some cases and probably more in others. And the SMI never do anything about that, do they? But they just continue to say, listen, you can get on PCP there, be grand, you know. Never buy on PCP unless you know the total price of the car. Word of warning. Steve O.C. link this Sunday service episode and send it to that Egypt minister for pickpocketing. Sorry, I mean finance. Yeah, and you can send it on to the Green Party as well, because like the Wolves thing amused me. I have to come back to the Wolves thing for a minute. Eamon Ryan suggested that he wants to bring wild wolves back into Ireland, into remote parts of Ireland. Now, look, I've never been anywhere in Ireland that I haven't seen a sheep, a goat, or a cow somewhere. Always, even in the wildest ass end of Donegal, you'll see sheep out there and goats and things. Wolves, by the way, are carnivores. In case no one noticed, wolves are carnivores. Now, wolves probably aren't much threat to humans. They don't tend. They've never really. That's kind of an old wives' tale. A pack of wolves that want to be very hungry to come after a human. They know we are the top of the predator scale. They know that. They're not stupid. Dogs know that. Cats know that. So they probably won't come after us. But they would certainly take out whole flocks of sheep in the blink of an eye. So I think he spoke off the top of his head because someone pointed a camera at him and asked him the question. And he tabled a motion at some point and had to kind of backtrack on it and made an absolute stones of himself. But what it's done is, it's brought the whole Green Party thing into this kind of mad mode. They're all mad now. It's just all like, sure, your leader wants to bring wild wolves into Ireland. It's a stupid idea. We haven't had wolves in Ireland since Brian Boru's time. Like, a stupid idea. But anyway, you might want to try and do it. You could do it, I suppose, in a zoo if you wanted to. But if there's a predator animal in Ireland, you're definitely going to see. They won't just attack deers; they'll attack sheep and cows. I mean, think of that, no? The biggest predator we have in Ireland, wild predator, is a fox. Like that's as big as it gets. There's very few of them. So it's really thick. But yes, Minister for Finance Pascal Dunn, who's already made his mind up what he's doing. This is a very wealthy man making decisions about poor people's future. And that's essentially what it means, because the only people who go to be politicians these days are people who have never done anything with their life, because if they'd done anything with their life, they would be pointed out immediately and be torn apart by other politicians. So they'd never really done anything. They've always just kind of either wandered into politics through a family scheme. I mean, their father, brothers, uncles, aunts are all politicians as well. You see family trees of the thing. Or they start off like George Lee, thinking he was going to save the world, and end up shuffling paper and end up running back to RTE again, where it's safe, you know. It's a crazy system we have here in this country. Crazy. Mark Turner Smith, the scrappy schemes were criminal. Lost so many good classics, and a few friends scrapped some lovely Vento VR6 Golf VR6s and said unbalanced the thing completely. It definitely did. Definitely it. You'd nearly weep. There's a Renault dealer here in town. Renault did incredibly well from the scrappage scheme. They doubled effectively what the scrappage scheme, I think, was giving you $3,000 for your car, and they gave you another $3,000, something like that. So what they did was they doubled that effort, and it meant they sold a lot of cars on the back of it. But it also meant that you would watch a 40-foot truck come out of Malins up here, and on the back of it would be minter cars, not classics, not necessarily even collectibles, just mint condition Ford Escorts or something on the back. Someone's traded in on some sort of cheap plastic modern version of the car. It was terrible, absolutely rough as guts to see it happen. But it has completely unbalanced the used car market in Ireland. So the way we're backing it up now is going over to England and buying all their used cars and bringing them in, because there's a need for you. People want a used car. People can't afford a brand new one. Byron, I'm sorry, Brian. I always say Brian. The text on the screen is quite small. I'd always say Brian, but I mean Byron. I should say Byron. Yeah, every time. I apologise. Mark Turner Smith, is there going to be a Duke Nismo RS friends used to have? It was bonkers and pointless, like Zafira GSI, with bonkers pointless. Only Nissan would do it. Nissan have no money, and I'm telling you now, if there's 4 or 5 companies in the world that are in deep trouble, financially deep trouble, Nissan is way up there. Renault has always supported Nissan to some degree, but Renault's run out of patience. There's Carlos Ghosn in there doing the thing. Renault could be bundled in with them in being in a bit of trouble, but Renault made a lot of their cuts years ago in the first initial kind of crash. So Renault's always been a sort of a canny hanging around the background. They have already done all their cuts. Nissan have so few cars to sell in the first place, and the Duke Nismo was such a small amount of sales. It's kind of difficult to justify that one. Other car companies are in trouble. Of course, Volkswagen has been in trouble for years, which has put Skoda and Seat and Audi. They'll survive, but it'll be tough. It'll be a tough while for them. Volvo, not saying they're in massive financial trouble because they're well backed, but they're only starting the electric car route now. As good as they were, they're only really getting moving on it. So they're there too. Mercedes are doing okay because they have very old money to rely on. They've been wealthy for a long time. They last year invested 9.6 billion in research, and they're reaping the rewards of it over the last few years. The EQC, okay, so it's not very efficient, but at least the range is there. Or they seem to have a range of cars rather than just a single car, like Audi do, just have one car, then they're going to bring out another car. Mercedes seem to have a range of things already done. BMW is in real trouble. I think BMW could be in severe trouble if it doesn't really get some action happening very soon on their range. I was at the X1 launch the other day. They have a 2-litre diesel, 231 horsepower engine, the smoothest, cleanest, nicest to drive diesel engine in the world. I mean standard diesel engines, not big yokes, just a normal diesel engine. Puts out tiny amounts of CO2. It is so smooth in traffic, it's smooth on the motorway, it's smooth in every respect because of that gearbox they've attached with. Just an incredible system, and the whole thing is being demonized. Every time you open your mouth, it's like, diesel, no, we cannot have diesel, it's really bad for the environment. It's not much worse, I don't think, than pulling lithium ion out of the ground consistently to make millions and millions and millions of new batteries. 83% still on my iPhone. Eric Rochford, hope that the Duke is better than the old one, which wasn't a great car. Don't think it's not Nissan's strong point. Nissan hasn't had a strong point in a number of years. This has to be good. There's a reason why I say that, because Qashqai started a segment and they refreshed it a few years ago. I mean, gave a new one a few years ago, and it's still in the sales charts, but you know what? It really does feel old-fashioned now. You get in, you go, wow, this feels like a 5 or 6 year old car, you know, even brand new. So Nissan have a lot of work to do, not just visually outside. They have to make that car desirable. It has to be part of a fleet of cars that are coming. Don't forget, Primera's gone. Pulsar is now gone again. They've kind of forgotten about that one. Micra is finding some homes, but it's got a lot of competition in that segment, and it's not exactly a cheap car. Nissan Leaf had the market to itself, but they're finding it difficult to get supply on everything. They're finding it difficult to get it out to the customers. They're finding it difficult to get the grants done. So many things going on that it's making it difficult for them to operate in there. Cross says the only reason the Leaf hasn't left Sunderland yet is that the AESC battery plant is next door, but the LG and the CATL supplying the battery cells and new and future models. So that's it. That's really like Sunderland. I was there. I've been there 3 times. I actually went drinking with a pilot from the Sunderland plant one night. Work on the line. Lovely bunch of guys. Absolutely love. Sunderland's a lovely place, and they're very nice. In every respect, they're very accepting. They're very Irish in that way. You know, a lot of Irish relatives and stuff. So they're very nice people. The problem is, it's a factory like any other factories. They were making decisions based on what they could and couldn't do. And Nissan have pulled a plug over there. But I've mentioned this a few weeks back. I looked at the Top Gear segment where Top Gear Clarkson was celebrating all the automotive industry that was made in the UK, and they took over Pall Mall outside of Buckingham Palace to show all the cars and trucks and diggers and all this sort of stuff that was there, buses and stuff. You know, probably half that, if even close to half that, still exists in the UK. Most of it's gone. Jaguar's gone out of the UK. Ford look like they're going to depart out of the UK. Nissan's departing out of the UK. They were the big ones. Then you have all the Formula 1 teams up around Manchester there. You know, McLaren and all these kind of companies, but even they're high up, moving out of Brexit zone. They can't afford to do it. Just can't afford to do it that way. So it's a tough place, and it's not just the car industry. There's more to it than that. A Hall, that's a good name. It's hard to pronounce though. Are we not looking at electric wrong? Should we not be being headbanging towards hybrid first until range extends? There's a case for hybrid. I've recently driven all of the Corollas. So there's four Corollas actually, but there's 3 Corollas, the main ones are coming out. Saloon, hatchback and estate. And there's a kind of a sporty one with a plastic fairing on the outside. That is an estate version. It's not 4x4, it just looks kind of a tougher one. And I've gotten, and actually another lovely user has gotten as well, very, very, very good fuel economy. Like anything from 3.9 up to 4.5 litres per 100 kilometres easily. And they're automatic, and they're easy to live with, and they're a known quantity. It's a petrol engine, so like you know everything about a petrol engine already. They're hundreds of years old, or 100 years old, so you should have no problem with them. So there's a good case for moving to hybrid as a stepping stone to get through the next 3 to 5 years, until we get to the point where your first step into electric engines will be a 600 or 700 kilometer range electric car, where you're just changing like for like. You're just going, here's a 600 kilometer, 700 kilometer petrol car. Now I'm going to move into electric, and that's it. So there is actually a bloody good case for buying a Corolla, a Camry, or something. You know, I know Toyota's like the king of hybrid, and even they're going hydrogen that route. They're investing quite a lot in hydrogen lately. So it's a tough call. You'll have to make the call yourself. I would, personally speaking, my circumstances would suggest that electric car would suit us down to the ground. My Leon does probably maybe 100 kilometres a week, you know, up and down to the town and back to the kids at school and stuff. So just very little mileage. So it's quite easy. Another point I want to raise is I saw on Facebook the other day that someone was charged €140 for a service on a first service on a Nissan Leaf. Where did that number come from? It's cheaper to service a petrol car by miles. Like a petrol car service 99 quid. How does an electric car that doesn't need a service, I mean, doesn't need any oil or filters or anything, change pollen filter, sure, but you change that yourself. Pollen filters about 12 quid up in the shop. Where did 140 quid come from? Seen that on EV Owners Club actually on Facebook. Frank Metcalf is here. Hi Bob, did you see John Coodigan's, that's the Australian guy, post for the replacement cost New Zealand Leaf battery $33,000? I did. I seen that. I didn't see his post on, but I saw a story on it and I discussed it the other day on Midlands 103 radio station. We talked about this as well. So that was an extraordinary event. It was a very old Nissan Leaf. That wasn't a brand new yoke. It was an old Nissan Leaf, and in the sum total of the guy going to get things done with a dealership, it totaled $33,000 over that time. So it's a bit of a kind of a play on words to some degree, but it does show battery degradation, and once the battery degradation gets down a little bit, it can be a big problem straight away, and can cause you all kinds of efforts and trouble. So, you know, just bear it in mind that there's other alternatives. Everybody seems to be just rushing headlong at electric cars, and I mean, not even rushing, just kind of careering into it. It's like, oh yeah, electric car, gotta have to, end the story. Model 3, gotta buy one now, today. ID3 has already got posters out, it has ads in the paper, it has its own YouTube channel, it has everything. No one has even driven the car yet, and yes, we're already buying them. You're insane if you're putting down deposits on these cars. You're insane, I'm telling you. Don't buy them. If you start this idea that you're going to put deposits down and pre-purchase all these cars, that is how they will sell cars to you in the future only. You will have to pre-purchase cars up front. I'm telling you now, you're going down a road you don't want to be on. Reminder, if you put an @ in front of somebody's name and you're talking to them directly, I won't read out the question. So don't do that. Adrian Mulligan. Hi Bob, can you tell me what episode of Question Time you were referring to? Someone mentioned it back to me pub last night. It was on the last thing on Question Time. Whatever her name was trended on Twitter. I'll find it for you, right? I'll find it because I said that I wanted to meet her. She's a lovely woman. Where's the trending thing in this? Because she's probably still bleeding trending. No, Harvey Weinstein's trending now, so that's after happening straight away. She was tweeting today, I don't know, someone else in the comments will mention her name as well. An American woman, she went on Question Time and she said there will not be Bonnie Greer, that's her name. Bonnie Greer, if you look her up on Twitter, there she is. Look her up, you'll find her there, and you'll find her piece on Question Time as well, where she said a deal, don't mess with Ireland, that America is very Irish, and were not to be trifled with. So it's worth. It's she's an author. It's worth checking out her perspective on things. Bonnie Greer, yeah, I was just saying. All right, sorry, wait now. Piers Morgan. Oh, wait now, Bonnie Greer. I'm just going to quote some Bonnie Greer. My wife has just handed this to me. News just in. Fresh news. Diddle-en. Watch this. Hashtag Piers Morgan. This is from Bonnie Greer. Has blocked me. A badge of honour, by the way, she says. So I can't read his tweet. But I wouldn't mess with Henry, Charles, Albert, David, Mountbatten, Windsor. Suddenly Prince Harry. Right. Suddenly Piers doesn't want any more publicity about Meghan and Harry. Why would that be? Piers Morgan says it's time the terrible British press stopped covering any public engagement by the Duke. Is he after tapping her phone? Is that what's going on there? Right. Maybe Piers Morgan has possibly tapped the phone of the princess there. But yeah, so look her up there. Bonnie Greer, she's very good. Shoots from the hip, so to speak, which I kind of like. And very American. Shane, thoughts on a used Lexus LC 500H? Anybody? I like them cars. They're nice. Lexus do good cars. They don't do the greatest interiors, but they certainly do good mechanical bits. The interface tends to be very old-fashioned, but if you get over that sort of stuff, they do make some really decent drivers' cars. They used to make psychotic cars, like things that would just tear its own tyres off years ago. Not so much anymore. They're now gone into the kind of Toyota hybrid mix. But they still make good cars. So I would say the LC500H, yep, sure, it's a good car, looks brilliant, will stop traffic when you pull up anywhere, and everybody thinks you're driving a supercar. Michael Carton, hi Bob, is there a future for an 18-year-old who wants to train as a motor diesel mechanic? Is it a case of lifelong training while working the motor mechanic trade? Love the channel. Thanks, Michael. That is a brilliant question, in fairness to Michael. The truth of the matter is that nobody really knows the answer to that question. My own instinct would suggest that no, there isn't really a future in that particular vein of the motor industry. There certainly is a 10 or 15 or 20 year future within the car industry in that respect, in that you'll go in, you'll do some training on it, because we still have to, you have to remember that in Ireland we have like 2 million cars in the country sitting around the place, right? The vast majority of those cars are diesel or petrol. They will require a mechanic for the next 10-15 years. But you could go in with the point of getting into the industry to learn that sort of stuff and learn about engines and management and all that sort of thing, and then eventually you get to the point where you're training on electric and renewables, you're training on how to replace batteries, maybe you're helping with developing the batteries. There is definitely a future in the car industry, but not possibly in that petrol and diesel, strictly mechanic, backstreet stuff, dealing out of your backyard and things. I don't know about the future of that. That's going to be a tougher one to sort out. But within the car industry, there's guys who were full diesel tech mechanics that have transferred over that are now dealing with electric engines and efficiencies there, and battery efficiency and connectivities and cables and wires and even waterproofing and all that kind of stuff that goes with it, you know. So all that has to be done. There's definitely a forward to that part, but realistically, if you're looking to get into it as an apprentice, the car industry, you could do a lot worse than the car industry, believe me, if you've got a head on your shoulders and if you're not willing to stay in a dealership for the next 10 years. So get into the dealership, get your training, and get moving through that industry, and get to offices, get to the bigger senior training points. So get to Volkswagen headquarters in Dublin, Liffey Valley. They train mechanics there, they train technicians there. Be that trainer, go after that sort of an end of it. Just always be moving forward, don't be standing still. Jesper Kint says, did you try the e-tron? Thoughts? There's a video on my channel of me driving the e-tron. Yes, short range, yes, very high quality, but very heavy. Actually, Cross reminded me the other day of something that was quite interesting. The Model X Tesla can go twice the distance of an e-tron for about the same energy. Where e-tron is actually putting all that energy, I'm not too sure, but it's very luxurious, it's very nice, it's quite short range, it's okay. It's a bit expensive as well. There's massive conversation between people here, so I'll leave that alone. In fairness, practically every EV owner pays tax on a new EV, just pay less. VRT credit and grant do now usually exceed the VRT and the VAT on a new car. Isn't it crazy? Isn't it insane? It's like this go around thing. Money just goes round in circles. Stephen Byrne says, I have a 151 Seat Leon diesel, currently 120,000 kilometers on it. I do 25,000 kilometers a year driving. Should I be looking at selling now rather than later, especially with EVs getting popular? Are diesels on the way out? Diesels aren't on the way out. Yes, Stephen. There's a good decade at least in diesels and petrols currently, just because it's not possible to have that. What we're talking about, changing people from diesel and petrol to electric, we're talking about doing it in 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. It's insane. That's a huge. We can't make that many batteries. We can't make that many engines. We just can't do it. So diesel and petrol is going to continue on as it is. But you're at the brink. You're at 25,000 kilometers a year. There isn't an electric car in the market who couldn't comfortably do 25,000 kilometers a year. You know, Kia Soul, the e-Niro, the Hyundai, whatever that one's called, Nissan Leaf, they'll all do that 25,000 kilometers a year. Renault's just released a new Zoe, which seems to be getting fairly decent reviews. I haven't driven it, don't know yet, but we'll see when that comes to Ireland whether that's good or not. There's plenty of choice out there, so you could comfortably swap. Now, at the same time, Stephen, bear something in mind. In 2020, there's going to be the ID3. There's going to be any amount of Peugeots that are coming electric. There are going to be Citroens that are coming electric. There's even going to be a Subaru electric. They'll be all there. So they'll all have an electric car for you to choose from next year that don't currently appear on the market for you. So my point would be that I wouldn't worry too much about my trade-in value dropping too far at 120,000 kilometers on my Seat Leon, right? For the sake of a few months of waiting just for an electric car to come on the market. It would give you good choice. You hang around for the next year, you'd have good choice on it. I don't foresee a huge fall off in desire for diesel in Ireland. I really don't. It's Ireland is such a stronghold for diesel, has been for years. The whole of Europe is. We still give VAT back to company car drivers on diesel. We still do it. That's not going to change in the budget. I bet you it won't. Not a hope. Neil Brandon. Hi Bob. How about the published test range features of all EVs to include the range from 20 to 80%, as this is the sweet spot for rapid charge? That's a good idea. Just yeah. That'd be nice to see published test range figures. Yeah, because a lot of people would say that once your battery gets on to like 20%, you charge it for 20 minutes, back up to 80 and then drive on and see how far you get. So that'd be the range figures you're talking about there. I think we need to take a step back a little bit on the language behind electric cars as well, because it's hard for people to go from miles per gallon to litres per 100 kilometres. So the step from litres to 100 kilometres to talking about kilowatt hours, and even that's hard too, you know. So I think there's a point where we need to kind of have just a step back and a little educate on the language behind electric cars and how they work, and the charge points and how they work, and you know, kind of slow it down a little bit, give people a chance to get used to it. There's a lot of younger people who are coming through and going, I have an iPhone XS11 Plus thingamajig with 15 cameras on it. They're comfortable doing that. Other people want to have a Nokia 5110. Just bear that in mind. I met a man the other day whose phone started to ring. What did he take out of his pocket? One of those little tiny Nokias, little tiny red ones. One of them things. Start talking it. And it works for him. That's all you want. Niall McHugh. That just hopped forward on me. Thanks very much. Cheers. Like it. I'll find you again, Niall. Don't worry, I'm coming back up. Niall McHugh there. What are your thoughts on the MG EVs? I get that every week. They look okay on paper, but MG has an awful history and there's no dealership. So if something goes wrong, what happens then? Who do you go to for servicing? Who do you go to get something fixed that's broken? What I'm saying is, MG didn't exist for years and years and years. Then they were bought out and reinvented by another company. Now they're EVs. Where will they be in 5 years when there's not enough of them sold? I don't think these smaller car companies can survive what's happening. I don't think they can survive on selling 50, 60, 100 or 150 cars a year. You can't keep a car company open to that. No car company ever survived like that. Lotus went by the wayside. They all went away unless they were shifting hundreds and thousands of units at a time. So MG EVs might look desirable, might be nice, might be the way it is, but use your logic head. It could be very hard to get anything fixed, very hard to find any parts. If you actually just crash into a wall, where do you get a bumper? Where do you get a headlight for it? Where do you get a wing mirror for it? In this country, that makes it very difficult. There is no dealership. There is no place here to get any of that done. There's a Tesla dealership, one in Dublin. So Teslas are very popular over the country, but I got an email from the guy the other day in Galway City. Needed a wing mirror for a Tesla. Couldn't get one. You can't get it, and a dealership can't order one. So there's no mechanic down in Galway that can order you a wing mirror for a Model S from 2016. Now I got him in touch with the right people. Eventually he's got himself sorted out, but it took a lot of internet messing around to try and find that. So you can imagine if you were to buy an MG, a much smaller company than Tesla, how much difficulty you could be trying to get anything done, particularly under warranty, especially if it was something serious with the car and it wouldn't start somewhere and it wouldn't go, or the battery wasn't holding its charge, or whatever it is. And don't tell me that can't happen. Of course it can happen. Shane, indeed, I would never consider a new one. This is a continuation of something, Shane. Anyway, only one for sale currently, lost 40 grand in the first year. 2 to 3 years old, should be a huge amount of car for the money, is my thinking. Rusty Bunch. Sorry, he was talking to Rusty Bunch, which is you put it at the end, so I read out the rest of it. Fresha Crema is here. Hi Bob, I sent you an update on the 1.5 TSI Insta. Did you? Right, okay, hold on. Oh yeah, we were talking on Instagram about the 1.5 TSI. This user has a 1.5 TSI and went back to Skoda and got it fixed. So I had another user tell me the other day that there isn't a problem and they're not recalling, but yet this user and many other like him got their cars fixed from Skoda. So I'm not alone in my craziness thinking that there was something wrong with the 1.5 TSI. There certainly is. I'll have to read that after. There's an awful lot of text on that. I'll come back to that. Your Sunday broadcast just got home. Okay, the fix seems to have worked for you from what I gathered there. So the 1.5 TSI, I think, coupled to a DSG box, has a problem. It seems to have this problem between 1100 and sort of 2000 RPM, somewhere in that region. It seems to hesitate and vibrate and do some weird stuff when you're trying to pull away from the traffic lights. I didn't like it. I put in a review. I got support from a hell of a lot of people saying I'm the first one to mention it, and it's great to have a journalist who's actually able to do it. I even got featured on the Skoda UK Facebook group, or whatever they call it. I got featured there as well. So there's a lot of support that way, and a lot of hatred, I think, from people who work in the industry to want to see their cars getting into trouble, or don't want to sell any less cars than they did before. Zedenko reminding people who click that button, subscribe, click the like button. If you really want to support the channel and keep it all free so I get to say whatever I want to say here, support it financially. Click on the PayPal link down below, the Patreon link. £2 a month or whatever, buy us a beer sort of thing is enough to keep the channel moving along. But particularly subscribe and watch the ads. If you don't do anything else, like if you don't want to give any other support in the whole wide world, you could watch an ad or two on the channel. That way YouTube has to pay me instead of you lads. Paul B. Hey Bob, you missed the Gerard Murphy Memorial Vintage Run in Enniscorthy today. Massive turnout, at least 1,000 cars. I would love to have been there, but of course this is where I am. This is where the audience is. This is where it has to be. I can't do, it's not reliable enough mobile coverage in Ireland to be able to do a live Sunday service from a car that's moving. So as much as I love a classic car run, I don't have a classic car, but as much as I'd love to do a classic car run, it's a difficult thing logistically to do a classic car run when you're trying to do that sort of stuff. Dana's, can't pronounce the last name. Hi Bob, could you help me choose between a 2-litre auto A6 or a 520 diesel auto or a C220 diesel all around 2013-2015? Okay, so the biggest of those three cars would be a toss-up between the A6 and the 520. The C-Class won't be as big, physically as big. C-Class is a lovely thing to drive, by the way. A C-Class will be comparable to an Audi A5 or a 3 Series. So the E-Class will be the one that will be closest to the other two. Anyway, 2-litre Audi A6 will be fine as long as it's automatic and quattro. You probably won't get one of them. The 520 diesel will be fine as long as it's rear wheel drive. You should be okay. Really expensive stuff. What I want you to look at is check out the size of the tyre on the BMW 520 you're going to buy. Go look up how much that tyre is, because some of those tyres cost 300 quid a corner, 400 quid a corner. They can be really expensive really fast. When something goes wrong in the BMW, it can get catastrophically expensive very quickly. A6 wouldn't be quite as bad. Audi tend to be a little bit cheaper on servicing, and Mercedes would be the most affordable generally on servicing, and weirdly probably one of the more reliable ones too. If you can get yourself an E220 diesel, I would pick that because it will be rear-wheel drive, be very comfortable. But from 2013 2015, it has a kind of an old-fashioned interior. So the infotainment system is quite old-fashioned, like a sort of gramophone and things on it. It's not very modern. The 520 would be the most modern, but most unreliable and will give you trouble. Check that engine out as well. And the 2-litre A6 will be, if it's front-wheel drive, it's going to be fairly boring to drive. There you go. There's a full review of all three cars. Joe Lyons, we have loads of wolves just off Kildare Street and down. That's where Leinster House is, where all the government wads hang out. Up there, yes, there is plenty of wolves there for sure. Bob, what do you think about the new marketing strategy of VWVAG making the Seat brand more premium? I seem to keep focus on Alfa Romeo for some weird reason. Well, Seat should have always been the Alfa Romeo of the Volkswagen group. Now, the problem I have right now is Volkswagen need money, a lot of it. They've got fines outstanding all over the place. They need to invest an awful lot of money on buying up plants. They bought their way onto a lot of boards and things, but actually having cash in the bank is a problem for Volkswagen. So some of the materials that they're coming out with seems to be a little bit lower grade than they've been over the years. There's things that are kind of missing out, like carpet in the glove box or carpet in the door pockets and things. Just little tiny things. But those little things add up to millions of saving on the other end. Seat are the more premium at the moment. In fairness to them, they're doing a better job on some of them cars than the other brands are. I had the Seat Tarraco a few weeks back. Really like that car. So nice to drive and looks very handsome. So there's an element in that respect of looking at Seat and go, yeah, Seat are coming back. Like, I own a Seat Leon, but it's 13 years old, so that's not like modern Seat Leon. But so there's an element of them coming back. A lot of modern journalists don't own a car, and in that respect, they've never really made that punt between actually being serious about owning a car and having their own version of a car. They rely entirely on having press cars. So, but I'd like to see Seat come more to the front. I think Skoda are losing their edge down to pricing. It's down to just the quality. The kind of simply clever stuff is still there, but there's nothing new. There's nothing new to add to the pile of clever things that they do, or they're not making the best of it. Cross says pricing on the Volvo Polestar 2 was disappointing. Expectation was the base model to be about 60 grand here. That ain't reasonable. Polestar, though, I will see if they get anywhere really realistically. I know they're using a Volvo. They've made they made such a handsome car of that car. But then, I haven't driven it. Could be crap, as far as I know. Sorry, slurp of coffee there. If you're listening, you listen to my mouth going ASMR and all that. Hey Hall, Bob, watched a German TV documentary recently that said the BMW i8 team left to go to China as they were left there too much red tape to get anything done. That is correct. Not just it was the i team. Not just i8 team, so the team behind the i3 and the i8 and the whole. So what the theory behind what BMW were doing. So BMW make ordinary BMW cars. Then next to that factory is the M cars, where they have nothing at all to do with each other. So the designers. The M3 and the 3 Series are not related. I know they have the same name. I know you all think they're related. But there isn't a single body panel on the M3 that came off the 3 Series. They might have similar dashboards and some of the same electronically bits. But that's where the similarity ends. But the idea of BMW, what they were going to do was create an I division. And the I division was going to create the i3, i4, i5, i8, all these cars. And I'd seen kind of weird sketches and, theoretical dark drawings and things of these cars. And the idea was that they were making the i3 dashboard made out of recycled donkey jackets. Or they could, 70% of the car could be recycled or made from recycled materials. That was the plan behind the whole thing. And then the MD came in and went, electric cars are just a fad. They're going to go away. Let's concentrate and make some more M cars and make some more, 3 Series and 5 Series and that sort of stuff. Just concentrate on the bread and butter stuff, this faddy sort of electric car. And it's so slow that the Chinese came in and went, these iCars, they look really good. Would you like to come to China and make some cars? And the whole team from the I Series all went to China to make them cars. And now the Chinese is going to come in and just march all over Europe with their electric cars. That's what's going to happen because they got European designers. That's what Korea did, don't forget. Korea used to make really crap cars, if you go back to Hyundai, Pony Times, or any of those cars, they were utterly rubbish. Every single one of them. But they were really cheap. They were really affordable. They started to make their way, and they bought their way into Europe until eventually they got themselves some European designers. Once they got the guys who could actually draw and create and had creativity in them, whereas the Asians don't tend to have much creativity in that respect. They're not great at design. They're great at making things, but not great at designing things. So once they got European designers, Kia and Hyundai and SsangYong and all these other cars started to make their way into Europe in bigger ways. Until eventually, now we just take it that Hyundai is European and Kia is European. We don't think about it anymore that they're from Korea. Chinese cars like Brilliance and all these other weird names that have Dang Sang or whatever it is, all those cars will become normal over here eventually. I bet you. Once we figure out the kind of trade deal between the two, the Chinese will make their way in. For sure, because they're after hiring in an absolute stack of European designers. So watch this space. You want to be working in the car industry, you need to keep an eye on the Chinese people. And this is the kind of stuff that I know a lot of other motor journalists aren't aware of. They're writing a little local paper about the review of a Hyundai i10. They couldn't even tell you where it's made or who makes it, or none of that sort of stuff. So it's weird when you're so heavy into the back end of the industry to listen to other people talk about it. If you ever meet a motoring journalist, and you think you know about cars, you start talking to them, and you look at a glaze comes over the motoring journalist, it's because they know so much about cars they want to talk about football, or trees, or wolves, anything, because it comes at you all the time. Byron says, Leaf is €129 in Windsor. Don't ask me, I just pay for the warranty. I get a pollen filter. It's just a mechanic's time and a ramp space, and to look it over and a fix to find. That's an insane price. Are you for real? You electric car owners are actually paying €129 for a service on a car that doesn't need servicing. That's the whole sales pitch of an electric car, was you don't need to service it. But it's $129. It's cheaper to service a bleeding petrol car. It's only moderately cheaper than servicing a diesel. That's insane. You're all mad. I swear to God. You don't even check the price of these things. 129 quid for what, right? If there's no oil and there's no oil filter, like oil is like 30 quid for oil in a car, engine oil. And the filter down would be maybe €5 to €15, depending on which kind of filter it is. Spark plugs are going, if they're long life, the longer platinum ones would be maybe 25 quid. Cheapy kind of normal ones are 15 quid, right? So I've just taken all of that and added up, and you're getting in around a 50 to 60 quid, plus a mechanic to change out those parts and an air filter, right? Because I'm sure an air filter is in an electric car somewhere, probably more of a pollen filter than an air filter, but there's got to be a cooling filter somewhere in it. So it's 60 quid for parts, we'll say, for parts for an ICE engine car, and I can service that myself. And you're telling me it's 129 quid for a car that has none of those things in it to service it in Windsor. That's insane. There's something wrong there, something really badly wrong there. I shall have to investigate. I shall have to find out why it's got. What do you get for 129 quid? Mechanic's time and a ramp. I mean, if you change a pollen filter in a car, right? So I can buy a pollen filter in Bradshaw's uptown there for 13 to 20 quid for any car. Even the most expensive pollen filters in the fucking world are HEPA filters, and those ones are up there at maybe 30 quid, right? So if you're buying a pollen filter and it's say 20 quid, and mechanic's time, ramp, and plugging it into a computer to make sure it's all working fine, that's 15-20 minutes, and a pollen filter which takes 30 seconds to change. You're mad. 130 quid. No thank you, sir. No thank you. Marty O, hi Bob, greetings today from Salem, Massachusetts. Wow, love the Sunday service, keep up the good work. Thanks very much, Marty. That's Salem, Massachusetts. I always think of Salem's Lot whenever I think of Salem in Massachusetts, which is a horror movie when I was a kid. Frightened the crap out of me when I was a kid. Really did, properly. Joe Lyons, are you sure you won't read them out? Read what out, Joe? What am I reading out? I read everything out. Don't I read everything out? Shane, cool to hear. Adrian Mulligan, cheers Bob, thanks Adrian. Mark Turner Smith, thank you Bob. Motivation is to be back in a mountain bike XC racing by New Year, next season, training again by December, March, August next year, as I have been since 1990. Enjoy the life of the VWGT. Good man, that is a positive message I'm hearing from you, Mark. Thank you very much. John Keenan, Hi Bob, love the show, thanks. I know I shouldn't have, but I've ordered a 2019 Hyundai Kona. It'll be delivered in March 2020. Bloody hell, it's a long wait. Will it be a new 2020 Kona with a bigger infotainment screen? It should be. You should get the latest of everything. That's the most important part. Is if your car is not gone into manufacturing, you should get the later version of everything after that. That said, not wrong. The Kona is a good little car. It's a bit small. It's a little bit small and tight in the back seat. I do find that, and the boot isn't very much to ride home about, but the range is very good. As long as you don't really need to be carrying a lot of crap in the back seat all the time, you should be fine. But it's a good car. You should get the latest version of the infotainment system because it won't go into manufacturing until it's nearly ready for delivery. So they hold back the it only takes a month or so from the point of order to actually a car landing in the country. So if it's not going to be delivered till March 2020, it won't even start making it until February or maybe January. Cross says, it's funny actually, Irish engineers are doing very well of electrification. Many of the senior engineers at Tesla, Rivian and Chinese EV manufacturers and EV programs are Daimler, VW are Irish. Correct. I actually talked to a guy, very disappointingly, who was one of the engineers behind the Mini Electric, which is now not on sale. It won't be here till 2020, I don't think, but it's going on sale soon enough. It's disappointing because of the range. I think the range should have been a lot better, and I think it should look less like a Mini and more like an electric car. It's just a thought. Mini could have spent the money done it properly, but anyway, the engineer behind us is Irish. The engineer behind e-tron's Irish. The designer is Irish. Just all kinds of things going on. The Irish do very, very well in car companies in design terms and engineering terms. There's a lot of us out there. Brian the bus driver says, is there any cold weather tests on EV battery drive, cold weather being on Irish or UK winter, not in a lab? Yes, there is plenty of cold weather. They physically test all cars in mountainous regions in the Alps every year on the worst and cold and most terrible environment that they can throw at us, because they accelerate the environment, they accelerate the amount of wear and tear the car gets, so you can see what it's like. Now, EV batteries, it's very easy to test EV batteries in labs and outside labs. So there's plenty of testing done on them for sure. You really don't. I had the e-Golf last year during the very heavy snows, and I didn't really lose a lot of electricity. I didn't find it safe to drive. Like, we weren't going out driving regularly anyway, because it wasn't safe. But I really didn't lose that much range. It was only a couple of kilometres gone over it, even though it was heavy, heavy snow and really bad ice and all that. Didn't really have a problem. But then look at our weather. It's temperate here at best still. Today it's nearly 17 degrees. It's after being snowing or raining and high winds the other day, and it was still 16 degrees. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. The weather here, cold weather here being a big problem. Cross says, and of course Jaguar Land Rover automated driving engineering is done in Ireland along with many of the EV related supply chains for rapid chargers, etc. Jaguar Land Rover have long since been a partner for Ireland and have tested all of their cars that they've ever made down and round Cork and all through Kerry and up that way. They've got loads of test roads. We used to regularly get Evo and the other car magazines coming over here and following them around the place trying to see the new cars. There's quite a bit of it happens here because we have very unique roads in the whole world. Very narrow, bumpy, weird kind of bog road that has these sudden dips in them, and they test all our suspension system here. So Jaguar Land Rover have been doing that for years. Porsche have been doing that for years. The Porsche Taycan was developed, the suspension was developed in Kerry. So and I know that because I got sent a picture of it a long time back before it had a name, covered in camouflage down in Wexford, or down in Kerry. Hellhound, hi Bob. I really do enjoy these 2 hours or so on a Sunday. Great work and very entertaining. Thanks very much, Hellhound. I do. It requires a lot of work. I have to lie down in a corner for a good hour after these Sunday service ends just to recover, and I can't speak or anything for ages. It's very hard. Like, if you're on the radio or on a television, you'd go to an ad break, I know it because I do radio quite regularly. I don't get asked to do. I have to say, I was listening to Anton Savage this morning on a radio show. That man doesn't know what he's talking about most of the time. I really don't think. I'm not sure. I think he reads a headline or something and just makes up a story after that. That's what I ever think about. He was on Dave Fanning this morning, and he just seemed to be making stuff up. Anyway, he's on the radio too. But when I go on the radio, I don't know what it feels like. You're talking for a bit, and then somebody cuts to an ad break or there's a piece of music or whatever, and you get a break from it. You get to go quiet, but not with the Sunday service. The Sunday service is 2 hours, absolutely bone straight of just me talking at you. and you ask me questions. So it's good fun. I love it. I absolutely love the show. It's deadly. It's grown into something totally new. It's like 3,000 or 4,000 people now watch across various things. And then I'll bring back the podcast element. I'm going to do batches of like 5 of them. But they get 4,000 or 5,000 downloads every time I put one up. So it's grown into quite a big thing that I wasn't expecting to grow into a big thing. I'd love to find a sponsor for it or something that I could mention a sponsor in the middle of it. But sure, you never know. These things could come out of anywhere. Just skip forward on me again. Talking about yourselves. Calanuts. Hi Bob, what's your opinion about the Friday for Future movement? And this would be the influence of the car industry. I don't know if car industry thinks in 5-year blocks, right? The car industry is a weird, sort of strange, very unique industry all of itself. It's not like the fashion industry or whatever that tries to make up what next season stuff is about, what we're going to be wearing in the winter, cowls and things. It's not like that. The car industry kind of goes, what are we going to be driving in 15 years from now? So, and they start making their way towards that target. And the target moves along the way, but generally speaking, they're on that sort of a route. So, to be able to influence the car industry, you'd need to have a decision made now that's going to take effect in 2025. Because it's very big. The car industry, you look at, I'm going to take one of the smaller players. Take Fiat, right? So Fiat is in deep crap and has been in deep crap for years now. They've no new cars and it's very hard to progress forward. And they seem to come out with some brilliant stuff, but nobody buys it. Alfa Romeo is part of that group as well. So there's a bit going on there. But the thing is, there's millions of suppliers that supply Fiat with stuff. So Fiat just assemble cars. Bits of the car, the interior of the car or the engine of the car is made by Continental. Lumps of the great big volumes of the car made by Continental Group. They have to pay those bills. And it's not just Continental. There's bits coming in from different tyre manufacturers and windscreen manufacturers and all this other stuff. So to make moves, they have to make it, and yet they have to get compliance from thousands of suppliers into the factory. So it's very hard for this idea to have an influence on the car industry. What does that mean, to influence the car industry? To do what? A lot of these factories, like Fiat's factory in Italy, is already carbon neutral. It has been carbon neutral for nearly 8 years. In other words, they don't put out any more CO2 than they take in. So it's neutral. It's neither making more or taking away any. Unless the carbon negative plants, of course, but at least they've been doing it for 8-9 years. So where's the influence, or what is the influence? What is the end goal of that? Simply getting rid of petrol and diesel engines is not a good end goal. It's not the thing we need. I harp on about it every week, but the best change you can make at home today is to consume less plastic. That's it. Just straightforward. Think about plastic stuff that you create and how you do it, and whether you create it or whether you make it. I just buy the plastic and I throw it away. But then you've created the desire for a company to make more plastic because you bought it. So don't buy it. Buy that stuff, hard things. Bring them along to coffee shops, get them to fill them up. Ask coffee shops. Melanie May on Twitter, she's a mate of mine. She created a list of coffee shops to give you a discount if you bring your own cup. It's a fairly straightforward one, isn't it? It's an easy thing to think about. Nikos says, hi Bob, this is Nico from Athens, Greece. Good man. I have a lot of fans in Athens. I don't know why that is. Thanks for your input last week. Which 5-door hatchback would you buy? Ford Fiesta ST2, Audi A1, Hyundai i30, and different prices and stuff is all there. No problem. I'm glad I could help. Did I help last week? Did you ask the same question this week? Or is that the same question? Which 5-door hatchback was... What was your input last week then? Anyway, right, if that's another question this week, let's go through our list again. Ford Fiesta ST2 is €22,134. Audi A1, €24,600. Hyundai i30N, €28,750. I would buy the Ford Fiesta ST2 because it's the best car to drive out of that list, bar none. There's nothing else like it on the list. Hyundai i30N is a really good car, is a brilliant car drive, and much bigger than Ford Fiesta. 5-door hatchback, but it's a proper 5-door hatchback. It is very fast. It is also going to be very expensive to service, whereas the Ford Fiesta is just a service of a Ford Fiesta. It's 2-wheel drive, nothing complicated in it, but yet it drives like a go-kart. And it happens to be the cheapest one on the list as well. So now, not only am I saving you the effort of looking around for other cars, I'm also saving you money. Fresher Crema says, Bob, you get a free coffee and cookie. Oh wait, you already got those with your regular car repairs. Agree on weird pricing there. I can't get over that price. 104. What in the name of God has happened to the world when you have an electric car that you sell based upon the fact that, well, there's no mechanical parts, you don't need to service any oil, or they're very reliable, but they charge you more to service the car. That's crazy. You're crazy. You said anyone that pops an you wouldn't read it out. Simple thing. Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. An at thing. Yeah, I wouldn't read it out. Normally, I don't read out. If you at somebody, I don't read it out. Mike Burke, why won't you answer me, Bob? Is there a problem on my end? Same question missed twice. What question? I never miss a question. Mike Burke. I'm going to go back up along, Mike Burke. I didn't miss a question from Mike Burke. Bob, after you. Oh, wait, no, I did. Oh, sorry, I missed it, Mike. Apologies. I didn't think I missed any questions at all today. Mike Burke, Bob, I'm after getting work 5 miles from home after 7 years of a 130 kilometre commute. Is there an argument for buying a cheap classic as a daily driver, tax, insurance, appreciation, or should I go electric? 7, are you telling me you're going to buy a car to drive 5 miles? Buy a bicycle. Are you mad? Buy an electric bike. You will have the laugh of your century on an electric bike. Buy one, turn it up to the max, and pedal like a lunatic. Now, at the same time, if you really wanted to buy something, a daily driver, you go off and buy something like a Mazda MX-5, something that is literally to get you from one place to the other. But just remember, everything quadruples. The older you get, the higher your insurance tends to be, the higher your tax tends to be. Servicing has to be done a little bit more regularly, just because the car is a bit more old and a bit more tired and needs a bit more work. But other than that, I would definitely, for a 5 mile commute from home, which is like 7 kilometres, right, I would run it and say it was at the money. I dump it, all of it, and get rid of it. So sorry, I missed your question the first time out. I think it's the first time I've ever been drawing my attention to miss the question. I'm sorry. Cross asked the question, and in their infinite wisdom, YouTube held it for some reason. Why do you even hold it? Cross says €99 in Windsor for a standard annual leaf inspection with no change of any parts or fluids required. $129 every second year for pollen filter and brake fluid, mandatory for warranty. That's still amazingly expensive. A can of brake fluid is about, I'd say, $9.99, and you'd have enough to change maybe 9 or 10 cars and that. That's a 5 litre one. You could buy a little can of brake fluid, about £3 or £4 for sure. You could definitely do, and I know under warranty, I got it. The warranty thing is you have to keep your warranty going. But what I'm saying is, over the period of the 3 years or whatever it is your warranty is on a Nissan Leaf, you're going to spend $230. It's say £300, just to round it out. But if you change the brake pads or something in the middle of it, $300 to £400 on servicing electric cars that are already overpriced and already costing you a fortune. It just seems crazy to me that the price has gone up, not down. It should be, for a standard inspection in Windsor, when you plug in a computer and it tells you there's a fault, that should be £25-30 max, for sure. And for changing the pollen filter and the brake fluid, if you were to pull up outside my door and I change the pollen filter and brake fluid, and I don't do this, I don't do services on cars, but if you did, I'd probably charge you total £60 for the whole lot. Done. That's that. So £129 sounds insane to me. And I know dealers cost a bit more to do, but it just sounds very expensive for a car that should be cheapest of all cars to service. Ban Powell says, yes, electric cars do need servicing. They have suspension that needs checking and maintenance, brakes, headlights, charging cable, high voltage battery, high voltage components, and high V cables. 100%. 100%. Yes, you're right. All cars have suspension. They all need servicing. I haven't serviced my suspension in... Last time I got service suspension was one of the back shocks broke, and it was €70, and a mate of mine helped me do it. That was that. But yes, check out maintenance. Brakes, headlights. Come on. You can't be just trying. You working at a dealership or something. Brakes and headlights. Check them yourself. Turn them on, look and see if they're working, turn them off. That's the end of headlights checking, right? Brakes, you know if brakes are going, your foot goes further down on the brake pedal, or you look at your brake fluid reservoir. If it looks low, it's because the brake pads are thinning out and you put more brake pads on. Charging cable, high voltage battery, high voltage components are not physically checked by a mechanic. You plug in a computer into that, and the computer will give you error codes and things coming back out of the system. you will get error codes and things come back out of the system. It's very, very unlikely that a mechanic is going to open up any of that battery cell technology in there and do any sort of checks on it in the first place. My wife and daughter handed me notes here. Do you want to see the note? There's a note. Look, buy an electric bike and pedal like a lunatic. There you go. That's that one. And that one says you probably fall off. For my daughters. See, we all watch the Sunday service here, even the family does. But still, Ban, I get what you're talking about. I understand garages have to be paid, but €129 is more expensive than a visual service and a visual check on a petrol car. A full service of oil filter, spark plugs, all that sort of stuff on a petrol car would cost max €150. So I don't get it why an electric car should be nearly the same price when none of those parts are being used in the car. Dewey, good name, Dewey. Own a Kia Soul EX 2014. Would love the EV Soul, but too expensive. Loved the review you did. Don't change that car. It's a great little car. The Kia Soul is a lovely car. And generally speaking, the first generation of it was a dingy bit plastic, but the 2014 one was fine. And the current one is very, very good. Wait, there's a second-hand one that'll be on the way some point in the future. Trust me, these things all balance themselves out in the end. You all think the end of the world is coming. You all think that this is the end of petrol days. Oh my God. These things have a habit of balancing themselves out. And we'll see. Cross says the i3 is every 2 years of visual inspection and brake fluid. Tesla require no inspections or service for warranty cover. Amazing that, isn't it? I wonder how that works now. The disruptive company Tesla, who seem to just do stuff and don't ask any permission for it, and everyone says they're wrong, and yet they somehow manage to continue to sell cars. Not amazing. And they require no inspections or service for their warranty cover. That's a bit wild. It's called disruption, but it does happen from time to time. I don't understand. A visual inspection, I get it. You go to a mechanic has a look at your brake pads, suspension system, sticks on a machine to check the error codes. By the way, you can buy that machine in Lidl very shortly. I think it's this week sometime. Is it Lidl or Aldi or something selling a error code inspection machine? You can buy them on Amazon. Anything from about $20 to maybe £200 for a decent inspection machine. You can also do a cable which you can connect to a standard laptop. You download the software and you get the error cable or error code off that, and that can connect into the Volkswagen system and proper into the systems. And get the latest error codes and error messages and check them on up. You can do all that yourself. But under warranty, I get it. Once the warranty's over, lads, learn to service these things yourself. You're insane to be paying these kind of money. We have lost contact not only with nature and the environment out there, not only about hunting and gathering. That's all gone from our mind. We walk by blackberry bushes now and go, oh no, could be dirty. You never know what's on them. I munch into them. I'm fine. Cherries, wild apples, I need all that, so it's all fine. And now the same is applied. Now we learned how to service cars ourselves because we had to, and the last 10, 15, 20 years that's been pulled away from us as well. This idea we're not supposed to touch the car, lift the bonnet, nothing. That's all nonsense. You need to learn to do these things yourself. You should learn to do them yourself. It's a great education, and it's cheaper by a long way, and you support jobs as well. You support jobs up in Bradshaw's or Halfords or wherever it is. Although Halford's expensive. Bradshaw's can be expensive as well, don't get me wrong. But Halford's is expensive. So Bradshaw's is a local guy. There's a guy called, two of them in Newbridge. Fergal Allen's in Newbridge, and that one. There's probably 4 or 5 of them in Dublin as well. Plenty of places to pick up parts for next to nothing. Even Mixed Garage, who were very helpful to me on Twitter, I have to say. Every time I ask a question, they give me an answer immediately, even in the middle of the night. I've never bought it in there, I don't think. Eric Watchard, agree with you on Skoda losing the edge, getting expensive too. Had Skodas for nearly 20 years, recently switched to a low mileage year-old E220 diesel, good car, which works out. Why did I do that again? It just does that to me, just goes forward, just goes blink all the way forward, which works out slightly better value all around as I do high mileage. There you go. You see, you got to make decisions throughout your driving life, and one of those decisions could easily be swapping brands. I never recommend people that if they're driving a certain brand of car today and they're going to change, that to change into the same brand. I always think you should take a break. You're only going to own 5 to 7 cars in your lifetime, right? Owning 5 to 7 cars of the same brand is mad. You're mad. You need to change out. So I always recommend people take a kind of a left turn every few years when they're swapping their cars. They go from Volkswagen to Mercedes or Audi or someone else outside of that group if you want, but you can go inside the group as well, as long as it's different. Oliver Harris says, Bob, hi Bob, 85 quid an hour in any main dealer in Galway and a minimum of 1 hour labour. Try a light bulb in some new cars. It's mad. You're absolutely right, Oliver. I'm going outside after Sunday service, Bob, regardless of the wolves. Oh, because you want to get out there from them wolves. Mind yourself now crossing the road, the wolves don't get you. You're right. It's dealerships, look, they have to pay their staff, and the staff demand very high wages. And there's certain legislation that goes in having a main dealership. It has a certain level of quality, certain level of standard, and they have to guarantee and warranty their work every time. There's all kinds of things that goes with being in a dealership. But at 85 quid an hour for changing a light bulb, if you're not in warranty, that's not a warranty claim. You don't have to get a light bulb changed at a dealership under warranty if it's not claiming off warranty, and bulbs are not covered by warranty. You should be able to change a bulb yourself, right? You should be able to check the oil, check the fluids in general on a car, change a bulb at any point. You should know the difference between a dead battery and having no petrol in the tank. These are simple things to figure out. And then once you upgrade to that, you know how to top up the oil. You should know how to top up the brake fluid. You should know how to look at your tyres, to inspect your tyres. Are they wearing out? Are they falling apart? Is there cracks in them? These are all little simple things you can do that's going to save you thousands when it comes to actually doing something to your car. Just a thought, you can save money as well as actually be a smart ass as well when someone asks you a question and you know what you're talking about. Cormac says, interested to hear your thoughts on a new Juke next week, although the mention of an ST2 Fiesta is making me think I should get one of those when I trade my 2017 Mazda 3 next year. Highly recommend, if anyone's not driven a Fiesta ST2 or a Fiesta ST of any kind, it's definitely worth a shot, because what Ford do is take a standard Fiesta and do very little. They just kind of put a torsion beam in it to make it a bit stiffer on the back, and they up the horsepower, and they change the gear ratio a bit, and they stiffen up the steering wheel, and then they put in different seats, and off you go. That's it. You're done. No kind of it's very ragged edge stuff. But what happens is this unison of ballsy, feeling, crazy car driving stuff happens all of a sudden, and you're going down a back road and you turn in, and for a moment the car goes, I'm going to kill you, and then you get all the way around the corner, you get out and there's sweat in the back of your neck and there's sweat in the palm of your hands. You're thinking, I nearly died, but that was great fun. That's what a Fiesta SC2 does for you, or any of those old Fiesta. XR3i did that as well. Fiesta ST, Focus ST to some degree. The RS is way better than the ST, but Focus is a bit heavy to do that with. The Fiesta is much lighter on its feet. It's a nicer thing entirely. But if you ever get a chance to drive one, definitely. Batten Powell says, will they ever produce a self-charging battery that charges without the need for petrol or diesel engines? Well, they do that already. It doesn't charge itself. A self-charging battery would suggest perpetual motion, which isn't possible. Which you could get a battery that could charge from the sun, or for charge from solar panels, but it'll have to be plugged into something. But definitely a battery that charges itself, no. If you leave a battery, if you don't start a car, any battery, whatever it is, if you don't start it for long enough, eventually the battery goes dead all on its own, just kind of burns itself out, and it's that hot and cold stuff that happens. Mark Turner Smith has been blocked by YouTube, you're being very aggressive today with your blocking stuff. But anyway, he says VAG should have left the Seat carry on their motorsport efforts in the late 90s and 2000s in BTCC. Great, god damn it, I love BTCC. Shame it left Ireland. WTCC, World Touring Car, and keep the sporting younger drivers customer image buyers after VW. Now see, the problem is VW own it all. VW are the king of it all. And I know from talking to people in the group, in the Volkswagen group, and within the Seat area or within the Audi area, that Volkswagen actually pull the strings on everything. So if Seat make a car, say they make the Leon, right? They take the VW Golf chassis and they make the Leon. They make it to a point, and then what happens is engineers come down and people come down, suits come down from Volkswagen headquarters. They inspect the car and go, no, you can't have that, you can't have that, you can't have that, you can't have that. Now there's your car. And that's what happens. That's literally what happens in the group. So Seat could make the best car in the world, but until Volkswagen inspect it, you'll never see it. Now that's generally what happens in most big groups like that. It's the same for all of them. I mean, Renault and Nissan have the same thing with Dacia going on as well. Dacia makes some nice cars, makes some good cars, but Renault have the final say on the cost of them things. So even if Dacia want to get bigger, they still have to report back to the headquarters, to the mothership, and ask them what to do. Jaguar Land Rover would be the same thing, that to report back to the owners there as well. Tata would be in charge of all kinds of elements of their car companies. So there's this element that they can only do so much, and it depends on what you want to get over. Whether you want to be the best car company in the world, or you want to have the fastest car in the world, there's always this kind of reporting stuff that has to go on first. So it's a difficult place. But when Seat brought out the Leon that I bought, they were on a roll at that point. They were really doing very well. They had a lot of cars. They were getting a lot of good reviews. But sure, then they started to run out of money, and Volkswagen bought them. Now Volkswagen themselves are in trouble and looking for investment. That's off the record. Well, not off the record. It's on the record, but there you go. Draw after that coffee's cold. Gotta stop drinking it. I'll drink water instead. Shane, if you were after a luxury coupe today, Bob, what would you go for? Given a budget of about 100 to 150 grand. Luxury coupe. Coupe is the problem you got there. Not so much luxury. I mean, in that kind of price range, you're into the Porsche territories, who make some fantastic cars, but they don't make coupes. So you're in. The problem is that word coupe is a weird word to be in. I mean, you can get RS5. There's a coupe there. There's a couple of other bits and pieces, but there's really, that's a tough place. That coupe part is a tough part to be in. I would, with that kind of money, I'd probably just buy a straight up 911. From Porsche. I really like those cars. They have 4 seats. They can be used as sort of a family vehicle as well. You know, they're a decent spec of a thing. Where else would I look? Into the RS range from Audi. They make some really savage machines, and they're not necessarily coupes. AMG, they don't really have on. There's a C-Class coupe in there, but that's not the kind of car you're talking about. What else we got coupe wise? Let me mull that one over a little bit. But a budget of 150 grand, 100 to 150 grand. You could go back a few years and buy something really exotic, like crazy stuff. Although it'd be useless to you. Like any of the Lamborghinis and stuff from years ago, just going to break down for sure. Brian, the bus driver, on a topic of electric bikes, seen a street legal bicycle with a 2.5 kilowatt battery and does 45 kilometers an hour, and a lot of Dublin city centre is 30 kilometers an hour. That's not street legal. Unless he's got tax insurance and wearing a helmet, it's not street legal. The problem is, so we have a twist and go policy here. It's not as straightforward as it first makes out. So if you can get up on a bike and twist a handle and it goes, that's a motorised vehicle. So it requires tax insurance and helmets and gloves and tabards or whatever else you want that covers like a motorcycle, right? It doesn't matter how many wheels that's got. So that's where Twizy comes into it as well. Again, that is a quadricycle, it's called. They were trying to get it done here as a quadricycle so people from 16 to 17 years old could drive it. No, no, the government was having none of it. It's a car, and that's why the sales fell on it. Now there's Twizzies littered all over the place. You get pick them up for next to nothing these days. But the problem is that bike doing 45 kilometers an hour on a 2.5 kilowatt battery is not legal. That is a battery powered self-propelled vehicle. That'll get seized eventually by some Garda. We'll see that thing and go, that's a motorbike. You're insane. Now, how you get around that one is you make it a push-to-go system. So if you get up like the modern scooter, you get up on a scooter, when you press the button to go, it doesn't go on its own. You have to kick it off. You have to kick it to get it rolling, and then you press the button and it keeps going. So that technically does not form a motorcycle or a mechanically propelled vehicle. And so you don't necessarily need tax insurance and licenses and blah, 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 all the usual stuff. So it's technically illegal to ride that bicycle, but it's definitely that kind of bicycle is on the way, and I highly approve of it. But people need to be a little bit aware that they're going faster than most other bicycles on the road at 45 kilometers an hour. Most bicycles will be going 10 to 25 kilometers an hour on a regular basis. So you're cycling along the bike lane and a 45 kilometer an hour bike goes by you, someone gets killed. Mark Turner Smith, partner, still have a 2010 Leon Mark II 1.4 TSI, great engine. 1.4 TSI, whatever happened from 1.4 to 1.5, they messed it up. 125 PS FR with S6000, 56,000, sorry. My eyesight's going. I'm definitely getting old. On the clock, but old, but still need great chassis. It is too. 2010 Leon is very good. 1.4 TSI is really good engine, and the car was quite light, so 125 PS is more than enough to pull the car around. That's great. My Seat Leon is just a standard 2006 Seat Leon Sport Up with 1.6 litre petrol. Came on 102 horsepower and a 5-speed box. And it's been the most reliable car I've ever had. It needs a back brake shoe now, I think. I think that one's going to seize on me. It's kind of making a clanking sound underneath. So I'm going to have to swap that out. That would be 60 quid, I think. Maybe 50 quid. That's the shoe and the brake pad on the backs of the... They wear out over time. They start to jingle jangle on the spots. You just change out the whole thing. Much easier. While I'm there, I'll change the brake pads on both sides of the back, because I have to wheel off anyway. I might as well change the brake pads over there. So all told, I probably spent about 60 quid on doing that. It needs a windscreen washer on the front. The washer motor's knackered in it. So that will be, I think they come about 60 quid, brand new from Seat. So that's another 60 quid. I'll change that myself. That is just take out 3 screws, undo the little clips on the top, 1 water hose, and then reverse the process, put it back on again. Really straightforward. That will take about, I'd say, a nice 2 hours of a Saturday morning. Sit down now and relax and jack it up and put on a bit of music and hang about outside in the cold. That's usually what happens. Calanuts says, does it make sense to invest in a conservation of old ICE car, special model and not a Dacia, for selling in the future when there'll only be electric cars? Thanks. Everybody's doing it. I mean, people have been collecting cars for years and they are all ICE engine cars. There's a few cars that are out there that will become kind of modern classics, I suppose, to some degree, like the BMW 6 Series, 640 Grand Coupe. I think that'll be a modern classic for sure. It's stopped now, it's gone, so now is a good time to buy one if you can find one. 8 Series, you've heard of it there as well. Any of the RS models from Ford, any of the ST models from Ford, the Ford Ranger Raptor, these are all cars that will eventually become classics in the future. So we're not going to get rid of them. There's no way back from that. You cannot just remove petrol and diesel from the market entirely and go, all them classic cars, you're just going to have to burn them or something. What do you do with them? You have to supply fuel for them somewhere. Cross says, actually, Leaf warranty is 8 years on the powertrain, so 926 for inspections over the warranty period. After warranty, I'd only bother every second year. So you have to spend nearly €1,000 on just inspections before you do anything else on a car for 8 years. Yeah. And that doesn't include anything that actually does go wrong, like suspension or whatever, where you have to get things done yourself. At least in Ireland, you supposedly won't be able to NCT any non-vintage combustion after 2040. Huh? At least in Ireland, you supposedly won't be able to NCT any non-vintage combustion car after 2040. I'm going to hold on to my car till 2040. If you can get around NCT is the greatest pain in the hole I ever had. The yearly inspection on a car that's over 10 years old is stupid, money grab stuff. It's ripping us off. And I have to pay it. I have to get my car inspected every year, and it passes every year. Of course it bloody does. I look after it. So, if you look after a car, it shouldn't have any problems in the future. NCT did its job, but now that job is ended and should go away. It's finished now. Where were we? Joe Lyons. No, he's answered someone else. Jim the bus driver. It's called LMX64H. I found an electric if anyone's interested. Don't know what that relates to. A very nasty message from one person. You're very nasty. I feel so aggrieved. But YouTube, in its infinite wisdom, went, Pink! I'm going to freeze that. We're not going to let that person say that because that could be offensive to somebody who lives in Zimbabwe or something. But I am fairly hard-hide, so it doesn't really bother me at all. Oliver Hart, P.S. Haven't sold my twin 40 Delaroto carburetors mounted on a Kent manifold of a Mark II Escort yet, Bob. Just saying. Mark II, he had me at Mark II Escort, I have to say. The rest of it sounds great, but Mark II Escort is where I want. Carburetors. God, carburetors. I remember carburetors just driving the wall, fixing them, trying to make them work. Just make the car bleed and tick over was enough. Ooh. Can you imagine, for younger people among you, if you've never heard of points on a car, if you've never set the points on a car, it's an experience to yourself to listen to a car going blah, 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 and then you just twist the little distributor cap and you bring it back around and the car settles down. You get this perfect sound, this beautiful sound, nothing electronic connected at all, nothing to tell you set it in the right place, just this sound happens and the car ticks over properly. That's setting the points. And it used to cost £1.50 for a Nissan Micra I had once upon a time to set the points on it. That was a long time ago now. Cross says the servicing thing with the Leaf was part of Nissan convincing dealers to sell the cars because dealers would otherwise make nothing from them. I still think, look, if we're going to have this drive forward into electrification, I think we should be clear with the consumer. This is where I'm on the consumer side, and I don't really care. Dealerships are dealerships and will always try and make money out. That's fine. They're in business. My job as a journalist is to try and educate people out there to make them understand that it's not all as straightforward as you think. And spending 99 to 149 euro on an electric car that requires nothing done to it seems to me to be insane. I certainly wouldn't be spending it. I certainly would have to take that into account over the lifespan of the car. And I know dealers need to make money. I understand that. But dealers are the ones that are also helping to drive this point to electricity. And if we continue to drive it, they're going to drive themselves out of business over time. So that's my thoughts. Shane, have been looking at the 840 for sure. Something about the rear puts me off for some reason. I think it's a gorgeous car. I think it's a phenomenal car. Not in convertible, but I think the coupe version is quite nice. There's a coupe, actually, just thought of that. There's, for that person who's asked me for a coupe earlier. Another one, 840. Don't know if I spend that kind of money on it. You get better than that now for 150 grand. Steve Wussy, servicing a car yourself is easy, true, but I have built up a great relationship with my mechanic. He never rips me off when I have major stuff go wrong, like a gasket on a BMW. He's great. That's always, look, a little team around you is always good to have. I have people that I call on as well, mechanically and otherwise, who have ramps or have things, tools and stuff that I don't have and don't keep. And sometimes just a job is beyond my technical knowledge, and I'll go to a mechanic and I'll talk to them about it. Or sometimes I'll go to a dealership where I can get a good deal there as well, because maybe I know them and they're able to do me a better deal on whatever what it is that I'm doing. So it's important to have your little team around you, no matter what you're doing. If you're starting to go running for the first time, you're starting to be a mechanic, or you're starting to fix cars yourself or repair bicycles, you need a little team of people who can help you understand what's happening around you. I can be one of those teams. You can ask me questions. You can come on to the Sunday service and ask questions here on a video, whatever, and I'll answer the question the best I can. But physically, if you know somebody who's able to fix cars around you, don't just give them the car. Go and ask them questions. There's things that they can tell you that can save you money, and they can make money out of you too, and you can all be happy learning from one another. But it's very important you learn how to do things for yourself. You learn how to grow up and get your own way of getting it done, rather than just kind of firing money at someone to fix something for you the whole time, because eventually that money runs out or their specialty goes away. Byron says, if you want 10% off Mixed Garage, use VP10 from Vantage Point YouTube channel. He's good for restoration projects and rallies, sponsored by Mixed Garage. Yeah, it's amazing. Tiny little channel, Mixed Garage. It's okay, it's fine. Yeah, if you want to go to someone else's YouTube channel, sponsor them. It's okay. Bush Motors in Inchicore, Gay and his son Andrew are fantastic with knowledge, but more importantly, honest. Most dealerships are, don't get me wrong, a lot of dealerships are very honest, and most people working there don't actually want to rip you off. They want you as a long-term customer. But what I'm thinking about is make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. It's a relationship with a dealership you build up over years. Some people take that relationship for granted, just drop the car in and the car comes back and they just pay the bill. They don't question what happened. They're the ones that end up getting ripped off. They're the sob stories we hear about later on because they didn't know what was going on. Okay? Cross says Lidl are selling an ODB2 reader this week, but you're better off buying a Bluetooth one off Amazon and buying an app like Torque for your phone. Yes, you are, for sure. You could buy a specialist ODB. It's dirt cheap. If you want to have a bit of fun, I suppose you could do it and have a look. But all it does is give you fault codes. I'm not even sure. Some of them ODB ones don't actually reset fault codes, so they just give it to you, but they don't tell you what it is or make it go away. Whereas Bluetooth stuff, and you can go to Amazon, you get a little connector that you plug into the ODB port, and it Bluetooths onto your phone, and it shows you software. You can reset your faults from there. Actually give you a breakdown of what the fault is as well. A lot of them don't do that. A lot of them just give you a code. You go look up the code, then 20 minutes later you find out your car has cancer. Nick Murphy, hey Bob, what do you think of the new Ford Siesta? Runs without gas. I didn't even look it up. What's a Ford Siesta? Ford asleep is what it sounds like to me anyway. Ford Siesta. When you think of the Spanish people going for a little siesta in the afternoon, you know. I'm looking it up now. Hold fire for a second. Google is Googling, and I hope it doesn't disturb the entire thing. Ford Siesta. That's Fiesta. Ford Siesta runs without gas. Yeah, I like that, Nick Murphy, but I don't know if it's going to be a runner for me, to be honest with you. Very good point on depreciation thing at your lines. Basic port. You're all asking each other. Stop asking each other questions. Get involved in me. Coming down here, Shane. Ban Powell. Why on earth do electric bike manufacturers limit the speed to 15.5 miles per hour with no way to lift the restriction? Surely, if you decide to ride the bike on my farm, my roads, you should be able to de-restrict it. You can with a software tweak. I went through this one time with a fella who showed me how to do it on a software thingamajig to restrict the speed. But the speed is restricted to what they think is safe for a bicycle to do. See, bicycles is the thing here, right? A motorbike is different from a bicycle. Bicycles can only go so fast. And I know I'm a cyclist myself, so you've got various of road bikes. So if you look at a mountain bike, which is the traditional sort of straight bars, sitting up on top of big round wheels, so big wheels. That's a traditional mountain bike. If you go down a mountain, you can probably do 15-20 mile an hour and that easy peasy because you're in full control. But on a road, if you increase the speed to 60 kilometers an hour or so, that thing starts to wobble and gets all weird and it can't steer and brakes don't work and stuff. All kinds of things have to happen when you get up to speed. If you look at a road bike, which is one of the bikes that I have, which is like carbon fiber frame, drop handlebars, the whole show, disc brakes, everything, they're designed to do 80, 90 kilometers an hour. If you really want to go that fast, you can go downhill with your top gear. Absolutely, I've done it. 83 kilometers an hour, I think, is the fastest I've been on that bicycle. That was in a road race up in Drogheda. But like, if I had to stop at 80 something kilometers an hour, I don't think it would go very well. You could do it, but it wouldn't be great now. So if you have a bicycle that has brakes that are old bicycle brakes and has a standard no suspension, no nothing, doing faster is just hazardous. So bike companies don't want you to kill yourself, so they restrict the speed. You can get around it if you really try hard enough. You get around it. I'm telling you, there's always a way to do everything. Fresher Kramer, Bob, what are your thoughts on the 3-wheel motorbikes you can drive with a car driving license? You can always do that. We used to be able to get a car driving license to ride a motorbike as well. It just give you automatically motorbike one. Now they've changed that. They will find a way around that 3-wheel motorbike, because if that was the case, everyone would buy a 3-wheel motorbike. All you got to do is get a roof on it. If it's for Ireland and it's got a roof, it'll sell. Not the Twizy, because the Twizy was too expensive and had plastic doors, which it's a fun yoke to drive, but there's no heater in it. It's freezing like. But if you could get a 3-wheel motorbike that is, 2 big wheels in the back and 1 wheel in the front, and it's got a cabin that you sit in, I'd buy one. I'd love it. That would just be fun. Like, even just driving around would be fun. Still catching up with you down the last 10 minutes, watching the conversations happening between everybody. I'm trying not to miss anybody, because loads of conversations happen between loads of individuals. It's great, that's the community we've made here. Everybody talks about all kinds of things themselves. Cross is personally a Model 3 Performance is his next car, because I have to choose one car. You're going to buy a Model 3 Performance, right? You want a 2.9% or 2.9 seconds to my face is peeling off feeling. Richard Cullen. Hi Bob, love the show, thanks. Which car would you go for between a BMW 640D and an Audi A7? Keep trucking. BMW 640D, no question. It's got everything I've ever loved in a car and looks fantastic from absolutely every single angle. Now, that said, they're hard to get and they're expensive to service, and everything on them is expensive. Everything. A headlight bulb, a tyre, a wing mirror, they're all expensive. Once you get to that level, you have to understand you're going to have to spend money to stay at that level. So if you're figuring on getting yourself a sort of a future bargain car, whatever, a 640 is probably not the one you want. Audi A7 is gorgeous. They have had a few problems with that rear wing raising up at like 70 miles an hour. It's a great way of getting yourself penalty points on your license. You just see the wing going by at 70, which is a little rear spoiler that pops up at 70 miles an hour. They also had some problems on the rear suspension of an A7. I can't quite remember what exactly that was, but definitely there was a problem with the rear suspension on an A7. But I would pick a 640 anyway. Calino says, I have the impression that the dealerships are trying to scam the consumers, or at least in Germany like this, every inspection costs 800 to 1,000 euros every 2 years, as you said, for almost nothing. That's the problem. You often don't see what you can get from a dealership, no matter how much you spend. You spend 200 quid, the car goes in, the car comes out, it looks exactly the same. Whatever it was wrong is fixed, and you don't ever see it. And then you sit there questioning, what exactly am I paying for? You don't have to be a mechanic to service a car. You don't have to be a mechanic to fix things in a car. But it's very carefully done in the dealership to support jobs. And I'm all in for supporting jobs. But generally speaking, we're paying too much to support those jobs into the future. We can't afford to buy a car and to be spending 1,000 euros a year and fixing it in a dealership. When half the things don't need fixing. So I prefer to do the inspections myself. I'm not a mechanic, don't get me wrong, I didn't train to be a mechanic, but I definitely know my way around cars. A lot of way around cars. Joe Lyons, jeez Bob, would you recommend the two cars I recommended there for Shane? A BMW 8 Series and 840D, Porsche 911 911 Carrera 2 Coupe 2017. There you go. I go with that one. The Porsche would be my thing. I think you'd stand out a bit more than the 8 Series. I think you will create a little bit more presence on the road. I think in that position, that's where you want to be. You want to be able to stand out and say, I spent my hard-earned cash on that yoke and it's mine. And so the Porsche 911 Carrera 2 would be where I would be thinking in that realm. Danius, you saying the 1.4 TFSI is good, got me looking at 2013-15 A1 125 horsepower DSG. Is it any good? Yes, it is. I do 100 kilometers daily, but had very bad luck with TDIs and want to go petrol. 1.4 TSI had the beginning of the cylinder shut down for Audi. And remarkable engine, did very good fuel economy, flips off two of the cylinders out of the four cylinders on kind of flat straight areas, and then engages the other two cylinders again. It saves fuel, they say. I think it does too. Generally speaking, I was getting about probably 3.9 to 4 litres per 100 kilometres, up to maybe 5 litres, depending on how you drive it, of course. A1 is quite light, 125 horsepower, tons for a car like that. And DSG just makes it easy to drive in town, so you're driving around, it's very easy to get on with it. You get the flappy paddle box and everything, and it's a lovely little car. Definitely would be, for 100 kilometres daily, you're going to get what you want out of that 1.4 TSI. But 100 kilometres daily is 50 kilometres there and back. So if that's through city traffic or through like M50 traffic, that kind of motorway stuff, mixed driving, those 1.4 TFSIs do a fabulous job of getting you around. You'll have no problem with that car. It's a great car. Mark Turner Smith, oops, I'm 45 years old. Yes, Bob, owned about 10 cars since passing my test in 1982. Well done, it's mostly VW Group, with a few Vauxhall, Astra Mark II. Wished I could have had a GTE Mark III. 45, that's not bad. You're doing alright. I'm a little bit older than you. I've got a couple of years on you, not too many. Gavin OB says, for the OBD2 connector with the VAG, I recommend a Carista. 40 quid a year, get a free month with official dongle, but can change the setting of cars, very easy to use. So the difference between that kind of one and the one you get from Lidl is a fault reader. So it's reading faults coming back, and it might say no fault, or it might say some fault, or give you numbers or whatever. And you go off and Google them, and like I say, your car has cancer. The minute you Google a medical complaint, even if it's of a car, it's got cancer. So the more higher up ones are ones that will actually give you codes and will give you details of that code and what it's like. You can turn the code off, you can reset it. You can also change things like the ratio of the engine, the power output. You can change all kinds of things, but any setting that can be changed by some of the more expensive ones that you rent them, but you pay 40 quid a year for that privilege. Byron says, so Bob, have you Christmas shopping in yet? Seems like all the shops are stocking up good deals on turkeys. I literally stood on Instagram stories the other day, and I put up Bing Crosby jokes. It began to look a lot like Christmas, because in Aldi it's just like Christmas stuff everywhere, and the amount of hatred that got on Instagram was incredible. Everyone going, not even Halloween yet. It's gas. I really do think they should bring in some sort of rules and regulations about when that stuff goes on sale, because we are literally in October. Like, it's not just early, it's not even remotely Christmassy at the moment, not even kind of. Yet, you know what? I love Christmas. I say it now, I love it. I absolutely love the build up to Christmas. I hate when Christmas Day is over. I hate Christmas Day. When we've had the dinner and everything else, you're lying dozing on the couch, is lovely. But the minute I wake up and it's night time, and you go, It's over now. I hate that part, but I love the rest of it. It's great crack. Mike Burke says, our bike is out of the question. I'm afraid I have kids coming from school. I'm thinking of something like an old Corolla, Carina, or other 1980s Jap. Yeah, you could do that. You could go Carina 2E, you know that one. Used to be lots of taxis around that, but they'll do the mileage. They don't care. They just throw in some oil every once in a while. They'll be fine. They can fit all the kids in, and yet they have airbags and things. And there's things in them that make them a bit more modern. Don't buy the automatic one. It's a 4-speed auto, quite hard on fuel, and when it broke, the whole gearbox breaks. So if you're looking at that kind of Toyota one, pretty reliable. When it goes, they go catastrophically wrong. Cool Beans Airside 1.4 TFSI and stuff will go there Monday. Definitely have a look at 1.4 TFSI. 1.5 TFSI seems to have problems. 1.4 had none of those problems, particularly in Audi. Worth a try. Right, we have made it. Did you know that? We have made it to 4 p.m. It is 2 hours of the Sunday services past your Sunday. Hopefully you've enjoyed your Sunday here. It's been a bit of crack, I have to say, today. We did talk about wolves. We did talk about carbon tax. We did talk about all the things we're supposed to talk about. So that was important, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Don't tell me I got it wrong. We are back next Sunday as normal. You can join us here again on the Sunday service. It's been wonderful company to have you all attached today. In a few weeks' time, if you want to go over to our Facebook page and check out the dates and things that are coming for stuff that we're going to be doing, we have a physical meetup coming where you come to Midway here so far, and you're Midway in Portlaoise, and you meet me and all of the crew that do be asking questions here on a Sunday. The Ideal Home Show I will be talking at for the 4 days of the Ideal Home Show. I'll be there every day, somewhere around lunchtime, for a 40-minute talk on electric cars and the future of electricity and the future of that sort of stuff. And the only one there who's not sponsored, not there to sell you something. So on the day, I'm not selling anything. So everyone else who's talking around me is actually selling something. So you take that with a grain of salt. But besides that, it'll be a good crack, and I'll be there for the day, and I'll be hanging around doing some VIP stuff afterwards and before, as far as I know. What else is coming up? The next few days, you can follow me on Instagram if you want to see what's going on in Barcelona with the Duke, and see what that's like. And then 2 weeks from now, I think, or next week sometime, we're going to be going to Portugal for the launch of the Peugeot 208e. So the electric version of 208, which looks very exciting, very nice looking colours that are coming out of that one, so I quite like that one too. So make sure you stay tuned, stay subscribed. You can support the channel by the list of links down below, and hopefully you will stay where you are until next week, and the next Sunday service at 2 p.m. right here on this channel. Hopefully you will look after yourself for the rest of the day and enjoy your work for tomorrow. But until the next time, I will see you on the far side.